Hello and welcome to episode 12 of Blocked. And today, Liz Clothier and I will be talking about issue 3 of Blocked magazine. So, welcome, Liz. How are you doing?
Hi. How are you?
I'm good.
Happy New Year.
Oh, yeah, and
You
you?
you
Yeah.
you survived Christmas and Boxing Day, I guess. So
Just, yeah. So, what's Christmas Day like where you are? Because I know you don't get bad weather really where you are,
um,
do you?
it's it was in the 50s, 60s. We did not have very bad weather. We didn't do anything. We just opened a couple gifts. Most of our presents were already given before Christmas. My kids are in their 20s, so we had a couple bigger items that were before Christmas. And then they opened their couple presents and we didn't do much. I sat and knit all day and took a nap and made chicken parmesan for dinner. So
I was going to ask you because on when I spent a year in Australia, decades ago, and on Christmas Day it was one of the hottest days of the year, and we went to the beach and we had a barbecue. And I was going to ask you what kind of food you eat on Christmas Day because I
um,
can't imagine you eating a roast chicken or a
well,
roast turkey.
usually the last couple of years we did a prime rib. My husband did it on the smoker, but it's been meat so expensive right now. And my dad's one of the favorite things that I cooked for him was chicken parm. So doing that on Christmas just seemed to make sense.
Well, are you going to be eating insects soon if it's getting so expensive for the meat?
No, no.
I read something about that today that they're trying to get us to feed our pets insects
Yeah, Bill
because
Gates can eat it first before he expects me to. I'm sorry, but
yeah, and want to
no.
see it live as well, don't we? Want to see him eating it live.
Yeah. Yeah, all those rich elites telling you to eat insects while they're dining on filet mignon. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Tabitha Stroke Morticia is saying that she did prime rib.
I bet it was good too.
Yeah, I bet.
Um,
If I ever coming over to America, I'm going to visit everybody to get some of their food.
that's fine. Come to Vegas. There's a lot to see here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, would I leave poor though? Would I end up gambling all my money
I
away?
don't know. There's a lot of restaurants, there's shows, I mean, of course, there's casinos. We have a football team, we have a professional hockey team. We may be getting a professional baseball team. So there's sports here now. We
So
have a
how come you don't
racetrack.
already have a baseball team? Is
We have a semi-pro team, or not semi-pro. They're one minor league team that we've had for years.
right. And are
But I
they
guess,
getting better then? Are they going up the
oh yeah,
leagues?
no,
Yeah.
they moved. Their stadium is out away from the strip, and I believe it's San Diego, um, Oakland A's may be coming to Vegas because they need a new stadium in Oakland and they're fighting with the city to build it, I believe. And, Vegas wants to bring in people and having sports is a good way to bring in people. So they may be putting a stadium on the strip, which would be very interesting.
Cool. Well, Suzanne's just said I can go to Vegas via where she lives, so I'll have to do
Okay,
like a little map of everyone I'm going to visit.
that's fine. I have another friend from England who he keeps talking about coming and visiting a bunch of us in different parts of the country. So
And Tabitha's going to visit and do the Sister
that's
Wives
right.
tour.
We're going to go where all the sister wives' houses are.
Oh, is that in Vegas?
They did live in Vegas for a while, and
Ah,
but also there's a lot of crime places in Vegas. That we have a haunted mansion and a haunted tours where where famous people died in Vegas. I'll take Tabitha to that too.
oh,
See
she'll
where
love that.
where Liberace died and all these other places. So she'd
Well,
love that.
if any of you ever come to the UK, I'll take you to London and we'll go and do the Jack the Ripper walk
Absolutely,
because I've done it a few
absolutely.
times and I love it every time.
I heard that there's a lot of the ghost walks in Edinburgh too.
There is, yeah. We have I think we have one in Manchester, but it's not that good because we're not as famous for as Edinburgh or London for murders, really, even though we do have them. Um,
You
yesterday,
just
well, yeah, yesterday we had the murder. Was it yesterday? No, the day before, wasn't it?
Yeah, you posted a picture. That was
Yeah,
scary.
the police are still here. No idea. Nothing has been put in the news though about who it is or why. So no idea. So,
Has it?
just in case anybody doesn't know who you are, because I'm sure everybody does, but
Oh, well,
can
thank
you
you.
tell us how you're connected to Blocked?
Well, I met you through some of our friends on PIK and in DK. And when you decided to do the momentous thing of coming up with a magazine, and you
The
decided the name
foolish thing.
Blocked, depends on the day. Some days you probably think it's foolish. Some days you probably think it's a good idea. When you named it Blocked, I offered my blocked hat pattern because I thought it was, karma. Because I originally designed that with Tina's yarn, our friend Tina from Unwedded Yarn and Fiber, because a bitchy knitter who was calling her out on Twitter, even though Tina wasn't even on Twitter at the time, and saying how bad her yarn was, and then blocking her,
Oh,
and then
well, how
blocking
long ago
people.
was that? That must be a few years ago.
Yeah, like 2019,
Wow.
maybe.
So she's been at it all that time.
Oh yeah, and so the first colorway we used for it was her Idea Pathogen in a green, because green yarn is bad, and did the blocked hat, and we did a knit along, and that was the first pattern that I published ever. And then when you did the magazine, I just thought, well, that's perfect. So
yeah, because I didn't know about that, because I didn't know about anyone in the community, this side of our community, until Anne and DK approached me to be on their show, which would have been over a year ago now. But one thing that so you're talking about that hat where you said you knitted it with Tina's yarn. One of your latest hats has become like, I don't know when we mentioned it, but it's become like the most blocked hat ever, hasn't it?
I know. I'm gonna have to put the pattern in the magazine. It was gonna be a one of a kind, but now I think I might need to knit it again in the same colorway, just to be spiteful.
Yeah, I think it should, because I loved it. I really liked it.
I'll tell Tina to send me more of the Fame Whore. It's the Fame Whore colorway that she did for Mikey Harlow, and she based the colorway on the background. On his videos, he has like a sponged, kind of like I forget the old art term, where it was sponged on, like
it's kind of like a wash, isn't it? Kind of different
with different colors. So she made the yarn to look just like his background. So it's got splotches of white and lighter colors through. It was never meant to be an intense, solid, color.
And it's on a brick wall, isn't it? As well, so it's kind
so you
of
get a lot
lines.
of texture.
Yeah.
And so when she came out with that, and named after Mikey, I wanted to make Mikey a hat because he's such a sweetheart. And so I found a texture that was knits and pearls that I thought kind of made it look like the bricks with the texture. And so I made this hat, and of course, certain people did not like it and called Tina out for being the laziest dyer ever because of the way the yarn looked, and me for being an immature designer for picking a pattern that didn't work with the yarn.
And I would argue it absolutely did work, because I knew what it was based on. I knew what the source material was.
And I just, Instagram is what it is. And
is this what somebody called it? Shoddy yarn?
Yes, shoddy yarn, yes.
So was it supposed to be shitty or shoddy? Or what was...
We don't know with that person, because that person doesn't always speak properly or write properly. And,
Oh, yes, I remember now. It's
Instagram
potato, isn't it?
Yes. And Instagram, you scroll through Instagram, and I'm sure there's knitting and crocheting and yarns that you like and yarns that you dislike. But I was raised to, if you can't say something nice, don't say something at all. So if I don't like something, I just scroll by it. I don't take the time. And here's the thing. I never posted the picture on Instagram. I posted the picture of it on Twitter. So this person took my picture from Twitter to make an Instagram post about how bad it was.
Yeah. So
who takes the time to do that? Yeah. So it just became a thing. And Mikey got the hat last month. Tina and him met up with some other friends, and he got the hat, and they sent me pictures, and he adores it, and it looks perfect on him, and it made him happy, and that's all I wanted, was to make him happy. But I think I'm gonna have to reknit it.
Yeah, I just love the idea that he's been blocked, his hat has been blocked, the design is blocked, the dyer is blocked. Everything about it was
pretty much. We are all persona non grata. At least, that should be a colorway. I'll just tell her that.
Yeah, write it down.
Yeah, she's probably watching, or she'll watch it later. She's busy dyeing, I'm sure, because she just sent me yarn. I ordered some, and then she sent me extra. So.
You're going to show us, or have you got to keep it secret?
I'm going to keep it secret till she lists it, because it wouldn't be right for me to premiere it, but I could show you, because you're not going to run to Instagram and take a picture of it and put it on Twitter and everything else like crazy people do. It's up to you,
Well,
but then you'd have to deal with Tina, and she might not send you any more gift packages.
oh
So
yeah, I'm scared of Tina. There's no way I'd go up
yeah,
against
she is
Tina. No
definitely
way.
a fighter, and she's such a sweetheart, and she sticks up for people, and
Well,
she donates so much to charity and causes, like several of our friends and people that you've been on podcasts with, and we know um,
yeah,
proceeds from colorways she's designed for them go to their specific organizations or charities, and no one asks her to do that. She just does it on her
yeah.
own.
She's
So
very, very kind and generous. She
she
is.
is. She's a little
Um,
firecracker.
yeah, and oh, what was I going to mention then? Oh, about Bitchy Knitter. It's funny because Kerry, I did the show last night with Kerry, and afterwards she posted a lot. I don't know whether you remember or if anyone saw it. She was talking about the letter to the Knitfluencers that's in the front of the magazine, and she was talking about that. And Bitchy Knitter obviously has been watching,
Of
and then
course.
went to read what had been said, and then started saying about how oh, something about me. I can't even remember now. But bearing in mind, like a week or two before, she'd said I'm the most dangerous man on the internet, and
Wow.
or something similar to that. But then
You went
somebody in
from
the
literally
comments,
literally Nittler to the most dangerous. Wow.
oh, hang on, it gets better. And because Kerry had called me Santa, I think she'd done hashtag Santa. Someone, it wasn't Bitchy Knitter, but
Oh,
someone put, I think she spelt Santa wrong. So I think I am now Satan. So it's like, I don't know, Satan Claus? How does that sound? I don't know.
there you go. You could start a whole new comic line of the adventures of Satan Claus and the
Well,
cats.
somebody
You could
else
have a
said to me
sled.
today.
You could have a sled pulled by cats.
Yeah, ugly cats.
Ugly cats. That's right.
Oh, this is quite funny. We do have so many wonderfully caring people in our community. I'm always so impressed and inspired by everyone. It's funny that you
Absolutely.
said that because it's obviously talking about Tina, but I think it sounds quite funny after we've been talking about Bitchy
Hey,
Knitter.
as much I know a lot of people have had problems with bitchy knitter, but all I can do is tell her thank you, because if not for her, I never would have met Tina.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I owe that to her, because that's how we met. And so,
yeah. And
I
I
thank bitchy knitter
actually
for that. Her,
went,
him, I don't know.
yeah,
So
when because one thing Bitchy did is a while ago is went deliberately came off Twitter for didn't come off but went private on Twitter, and afterwards it came out that she only did that to see whether I had an account following her, so that's why she came off Twitter, and I actually missed her. Because I kind of quite like the nonsense,
engagement.
because it's kind of it's so ridiculous that I find it quite funny, really. But
I haven't been on Twitter in almost 2 weeks, and
wow,
I, it
that's
was
good.
getting to the point where I was looking forward to seeing things and craziness, and I just needed to take a break out of my life for the holidays,
Yeah,
because I was spending too much time and too much negativity. I mean, Twitter's a cesspool, but you go in with your eyes open, you know what it is.
yeah.
But it
Whereas
was just
Instagram, you think he's going to be all nice and fluffy pictures, and that's can be
no, no,
just
no.
as bad, can't it?
But I just needed a couple weeks just to, you know, away from Twitter, because it was just,
Yeah,
a lot of people complaining about a lot of things, and it's
I
supposed to be the
hardly
end of the
ever
year.
go
We're
on
supposed to be
Twitter.
positive. We're supposed to be, it's the end of the year, the holidays. We're
Mm,
supposed to be, camaraderie and community, and I just needed a little bit of break from Twitter. But I'll be back.
yeah.
See what the crazies do.
Oh, Morgan's put the cats can be my elves.
There you go. You need to knit him little elf hats. So
Oh, they wouldn't wear them. They'd probably rip my hands off if I went anywhere
that's
near them with hats.
probably true. Cats are not big on clothing, I've
No,
noticed.
they're not. So, shall we start looking at the
Yeah,
magazine then? So, we're
yeah,
tonight we're going to look at. I'm saying tonight. It's afternoon for you guys, isn't it? So this
yeah.
afternoon we'll be looking at issue 3, and so this is the cover, and I'll try and zoom in a little bit.
Oh, the famous issue
Oops.
3 with your,
Yeah.
pictures of
So
the woke warriors.
so the first thing I need to mention is that this is the first issue that BS Designs was involved with. So you'll notice as we go through, it was definitely more professional than the other two, because she is so good at what she does, and she's so fast as well. It's like I was spending hours and hours and hours doing one page, and she'd get the whole thing done in a day. You know, the whole magazine.
Wow. I need to
Um,
get a hold of her because I need her to help me come up with a template for my patterns.
are you in touch? Because if you're not, I'll put you in
No,
touch with each other.
no, not yet. I
Okay.
was hoping she would pop in today, but
Yeah. Well, she might, if she can. She said she'll pop in, but I know she's busy today. So if she can pop in, she might pop in and out, if you know what I mean.
okay.
But she might be in the comments, maybe, if she is. She is. She's there. She's in the
Ah,
comments.
oh, cool.
So BS, I'll put you both in touch afterwards, unless
Yes,
you're coming on.
please.
I don't know whether you want to come on and talk to us. She might be being shy. I don't know.
She does a
Um,
great job. All I know is,
oh, she does. She does.
that's
Um,
the one thing they can't criticize the professionalism of the magazine. It's not like, you you know,
yeah.
you Microsoft painted it. It's polished and it looks presentable and
Well, they've never criticised that since BS has been involved. They did before, because obviously I was doing it on Publisher before.
yeah, but they
But
criticized everything before though. So,
yeah. Well, this cover kind of came out of desperation, really, because I didn't have a picture for the cover and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And the original idea was I was going to have two sets of people. I was going to have the people that are there now, and on the right hand side, I was going to draw all of us, as if it was a bit like a standoff. And
right,
then I
right,
thought,
right.
well, I don't know how people are going to feel about me drawing them. And I didn't have I didn't have enough time to give them pre-warning, so I didn't bother. So then I came up with the idea of changing the logo so that it was upright, and then have it as if so the idea is that it's a gentle pushback onto
No,
the
it's
people.
perfect. It's perfect. It shows the dynamic, you know, they're all running in all fierce and it's just, one little, like
the
talking down to toddlers saying, "No, no, no. Don't
Yeah, it
misbehave."
does look like that as well, doesn't it? Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, well, the funny thing was though, when I released it, everybody loved it, including the people in it. They all
I
thought it was
know.
brilliant,
I
and
know. That was so funny.
there was loads of messages going around saying, "Oh, he's done a cell phone. He doesn't realize we love this. We look like superheroes." They were saying to each other, and then
That's so
all of a sudden, Adela, who's one of the people in there, she suddenly did this post where she accused me of stochastic terrorism, although she didn't use those words, and said that this image is exactly the kind of thing that incites people to commit mass murders, because there'd been a mass murder that week or that weekend in America somewhere, and I think it was most of the victims were black children. I think it was a school shooting. I'm not sure, and basically blamed that kind of thing on my drawing, and then all of a sudden, all of the people that suddenly had been saying, had previously been saying how great it was, were all backtracking and saying, "Oh no, it's all fun and games until it isn't anymore. People are being hurt by this." It's like, how
Yeah,
do you
well,
even know you're in it? That's the question, because one of them, the grey lady, I don't know if you can see her there.
mhm.
Um, there's I'm not even going to say who it is, but there's a person called Veggie Knit Mama that thinks that drawing is her. So she made a big point of saying, "Oh, if you're going to draw me, at least make it look like me." And I just thought, well, how did you know it was you? Because I never actually said who any of these people
Right,
were.
right, right. Yeah.
So it
Exactly.
obviously must look like her for her to recognize it.
That's crazy.
Suzanne, this is my favorite cover so far. I saw it the same way Liz said, like a bunch of kids throwing a fit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean that's what it seemed like.
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how people see things in an image, even though the artist might not have necessarily thought of that. It's quite cool that when that happens. Um,
Well,
so
I think it's easier, when you look back, knowing knowing what we know now, you can
yeah,
kind of look at it, but that's what it
yeah.
reminded me of when you did it. It was just like, no, 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 don't, you're blocked or don't block us or, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of looks like the blocked is going to tip over onto them, doesn't it, and squash them. And then I can't remember whether the black half, where it's grey and black. I can't remember whether that was BS's idea. because I know we changed a couple of things. So the first drawing that I did, BS had some ideas, and then we changed it, and it was BS's idea for the hand. I think it was anyway. And then BS did all the logo stuff on the front and made it a lot simpler, because the last issue was the one where they criticised me for having all the millions of fonts and doing being like, I don't know, fifth grade publisher class.
Oh, well, yes, all these people who don't do this sort of thing themselves. No, the black is good because it makes it very effective. It makes them stand out more.
Yeah.
The caricatures stand out more. And I know why you draw them and not use the pictures, because that way they can't say you use their photos. But it came across as very much like, well, they might see themselves as superheroes. I don't think anyone else sees them as superheroes. I think other people see them as, whiny, naggy. Don't read this magazine because I'm telling you not to read it because it's racist. So you don't have to read it. Just listen to me and I'll tell you what to think.
Well, it was funny because this was probably, after the first issue, this was the second most read issue, and I think it's because of the cover. Because I think all of these people on the cover must have got the magazine to have a look at it, to see. So they would have looked inside probably.
Yeah, and then they can't find anything racist. So
Yeah. Here's the thing: if anyone watching now, when you see something racist, I'd like you to point it out and say, "There's the racism," and then we'll do a tally chart and see how much racism there is.
and
So,
explain exactly how it's racist. You can't just say it's racist. You have to say exactly, specifically, historically, how it's
yep.
racist.
So here, as usual, we've got a list of all the contributors, and this was yeah, it's just come back to me now. This was a tricky issue because everybody was sick. All the proofreaders were ill, and I had to actually ask one of my teacher friends to help with the
Oh
proofreading,
no.
and it was quite funny because the proofreaders, we'd all agreed like a certain set of standards to use, and obviously with it being somebody else, the proofreading he didn't do the same standards that we'd already agreed with everyone else. So there's a few things that it's like, I wish we hadn't done that really, but I don't think anybody else would have noticed.
Well,
So
yeah, I mean those are detail things, and people
yeah.
understand that life happens, and you don't get paid for this. Everyone does it for free, so
That's true.
you know
Yeah. So,
if there's
this is
going to
the
be
thing.
mistakes.
I love what BS did here with the logo in the footer, because
Yeah.
that's definitely
Oh
something
yeah.
that makes it look more, like a magazine, a real magazine, an actual physical magazine. She changed the. This is the same letter, but it's just a lot easier to read now. But after this issue, I think we took this letter out. So this is the letter that Kerry was talking about yesterday. So we've already looked at that. So the
I
first
think you should put
article.
it in. I think you should put it in the first issue of every year, though,
That's a good idea.
just
Yeah,
as a
because then
reminder. You know,
it doesn't get boring, does it? Every single issue. So yeah,
no,
that's a good idea.
but at the beginning of the year to say, hey, this is what it is and what we
Yeah,
want, and so that there's nobody. If you get people who are just hearing about it or coming to it, they can't say, they know exactly what you're putting out.
yeah, yeah. I think I'll do that. So this article here and pattern is by Anna Knitter, and hopefully, if
Yay.
you're not already following her, you'll go over and follow because she does brilliant vlogs. She does brilliant sock patterns and brilliant. I don't think she does tutorials on her vlog, but she does. She has a pattern for socks that I think covers pretty much every size you could imagine. I think I'm not quite
Yeah.
sure, but I don't think she does at the moment, but she worked with an organisation that helps pregnant women keep their babies rather than having an abortion. And
Mhm.
if you read this article here, the Welcome Baby Socks, this is about why she knits these tiny socks for the babies, and she gives these to the pregnant mother so that they get this feeling that the baby's real. Because at the beginning of a pregnancy, there's this. It's a what's the word? It's a concept rather than a reality, isn't it?
Yeah, they need something tangible.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, and it's a really cute little pattern, and the bits that are
Oh, it
left
is.
over from when you've made your adult socks are
Mm-hmm.
perfect. And there's an
Oh yeah.
address here to send them to for Germany. And I believe if you want to do something nearer to home, if you check out pro-life knitter, who's Amy from Two Sisters and Some Yarn, I'm sure she'll point you in the right direction for
Yeah.
some in the
Yeah.
States.
Let
Um,
Them Live is the organization she's
that's the one. Yeah, I
working
couldn't
with.
think. Yeah. So both of those, Anna and Amy are doing brilliant work
Oh,
to
they
do with
are,
that.
both of them for sure.
Yeah. So
It's
then the
good,
next thing.
I
Sorry, were
was
you going to
really
say
proud
something
that
else?
I was really proud that she put that in there because I think a lot of people would have been afraid, you
Yeah.
know, and
Well, it's funny because there's somebody contacted me recently, and I will do it. They asked me if they could put in a. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's pro-abortion, pro-choice. They wanted to put a pro-choice article in the magazine, and I will put it in because I think it's only fair to hear both sides of this argument, even though I believe abortion is wrong. Full stop. So I'm not going to censor other people's points of view, and it'll be good
no,
to get a debate going and get people
but you should
talking.
put in a disclaimer saying that the views expressed are not necessarily the views
Yeah.
of the publisher of the magazine.
Maybe I need to do that just generally anyway,
Just
though,
in
because
general, because
yeah, yeah. Shall we? So BS. I think we need to add that in. If you can make a note of that, that's a good
I'm just
idea.
thinking down the line for people to say,
Yeah,
how come now you're pro-choice when you did, pro-life stuff, so that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because they won't understand. They'll think it's just being contradictory, won't they? Rather than yeah, yeah. Because there's a lot of things in the issues that I don't always agree with. It's I agree with some bits of it, but I don't necessarily agree
Well,
with others. Obviously, I agree with what I've written, but when guest writers come and put their work forward, I don't say you can't put this or you can't put that.
I have a hard time because people say, you need to learn, you need to hear other people's opinions. Yeah, but when people won't engage, how are you supposed to be convinced? How can you convince someone of your opinion or they convince you of their opinion if you never engage?
Yeah,
And so having a place where people can engage without name calling, without, vitriol, that's what's necessary because yeah, maybe someone might not convince me, but
yeah,
we might have a common ground in why we feel the way that we do and we can coexist feeling the way we do instead of just, oh, you're wrong and you're a terrible person. This whole
yeah,
anyone who disagrees with me is a terrible person. I know lots of people who are pro-choice. It's not my choice,
yeah,
but I understand they have their reasons,
yeah. All
but it
my
doesn't mean I
real
think they're
friends,
horrible people. Yeah.
all my I say real friends, all my in the flesh friends, that's a better way of phrasing it, isn't it? All of them, they're all pro-choice, but they know that I'm anti-abortion, and we just don't talk about it because there's no point really.
Well, that's the thing. And you can't, we've gotten too much to just writing people off as bad people. And we
Yeah,
do that in the knitting world too. If they disagree with us, they're wrong and they're bad people. And that's not the case because I think, like you said the other day, there's someone you probably could have been friends with if you had met
yeah.
under different circumstances.
There's a
And
few of them. There's a few of them that I think I would get on well with. If it wasn't for the nonsense. Um,
yeah, and it's just sad to me because there's a lot of opportunities and experiences that we're all missing out on that I think would be different if more
yeah,
people would be willing to just say, hey, we can disagree on these things, but we all love yarn and knitting. So why
mm,
can't we just,
yeah. Oh, Cezanne's just said she's been looking for the racism for a year and still hasn't found it.
well,
Look
if you do, let
harder.
us know.
And talking about the putting different viewpoints in the magazine, Tabitha said, I'd better not put a pro junk food article in. So I don't know which issue it was, Tabitha. Was it issue 5? Tabitha wrote an article about junk food, and how it's possibly affecting people that are going a bit crazy in the woke world. It was really interesting, actually. Lots of
It
people
was.
commented on it. Yeah,
Well, and it makes valid points. What you eat determines a lot about, how your body works, and your mind is part of your body. So, you know,
yeah. So the next article was by Marigold White, And Marigold is not her real name. She used a pseudonym, which is perfectly fine. So for other people that are thinking of doing articles, if you don't want people to know who you really are, you'll have to tell me. I want to know who you are, but I won't tell anybody else. So she wrote an article that was quite interesting. It's only a short article, but it's about wasps, and this is white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, isn't it? I think, and basically it shows how people who are wasps, I don't know whether you identify as that or not, but how they're discriminated against. And it's quite, I don't know, it's a nice little article. It's interesting, it's thought-provoking. She doesn't say an awful lot, but it does make you wonder, it does make you think about things in a different way slightly.
Speaking of the Protestants, I just watched a thing on Queen Lady Jane Grey, who was queen for 9 days.
Oh yeah.
And a documentary about how, and part of the problem was because she was so devout that even when her life was spared after Queen Mary took over, she still went against Catholics and still,
yeah, because Queen Mary was very Catholic, wasn't she? She was
Bloody Mary.
Yeah, she was the King of Spain's niece, was she?
No, yes, and she married Philip,
one or the other.
And she married Philip IV.
That's right. Yeah.
They had no children though, but she was very Catholic, and she kept practicing her Catholicism even when her brother was king for a few years, even though he outlawed it. And he did his finagling to make Lady Jane Grey queen because he didn't want a Catholic to be on the throne. And
it's like
it was
today,
just fascinating.
Isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's like how the Protestants and the Catholics couldn't get along.
Well, didn't they change the rule that the monarch can marry a Catholic now, but they still can't be Catholic? I think they changed it so they can marry a Catholic. I think that's what I read.
Oh, it might. Was it only recently? Was it only in the last?
Within the last few years, in the last couple of years, where they could marry a Roman Catholic, but they couldn't be a Roman Catholic.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? That's sort of such a discriminatory thing.
Well, I think it's because they're the head of. I think because if the monarch is the head of the Church of England, it would be kind of a conflict.
Yeah.
If they were Catholic, maybe just a bit of a conflict. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I was raised a Catholic, so I suppose that means I can never be king. Not that I'm in the line of succession.
Probably not. Not unless you form a coup and make your own rules. Besides, you're evil, so you could never become king.
Oh, I think there's been a few evil kings.
Yes, but you're evil Santa, so.
Oh, Suzanne's going to write an article about eating the bugs. Yes, please do.
As long as I don't have to sample any.
And she says, wasn't that about the monarch or the next in line marrying someone who is divorced or being able to remarry if they are divorced? That was obviously changed for Charles, wasn't it? So that he could marry after, which is ironic because the whole reason Protestant religion kind of took over in England anyway was because of being divorced, wasn't it, for Henry VIII?
Yeah, because the Pope wouldn't let him have one.
Yeah. Oh, we've really gone off thingy here, haven't we? Now, so
sorry.
That's all right. So now there's an article here. The start of an article here by Marie Busquet. So we talked about Marie a little bit yesterday, and she is I think she's a co-owner or co-runner of Skeins in New Zealand. Mm-hmm. Did I call her Australian then, or I didn't? Did I?
I don't think so.
No, it's because we were talking about Australia before we went on live, weren't we? And I was
no.
Yeah, so she's on New Zealand. She's in New Zealand, definitely. And she wrote an article about things that annoy store assistants, which is quite funny. And one of the first ones was about looking for baby yarn in white, and she just makes the point that really, white is probably the last color you should put a baby in, because of all the spills and emissions. Mm-hmm. And she was saying now she put her kids in navy blue and orange and things like that. And then I'll just skip ahead because there was other stuff in the middle. The other one she put was, how many balls do I need to knit a sweater? and obviously that's how, how long's a piece of string. Um, do you have a very soft yarn that doesn't pill? And basically, the answer to that is if it's very soft, the fact that it's very soft
Your
means it's
soft means
more
it's
likely to pill.
gonna
Yeah.
pill. Mm-hmm.
And do you have this specific yarn in that specific color? And that's one that I talked to her about when I worked in a yarn store, because we used to get people saying that they wanted a blue from, say, King Cole, but they wanted it in Sirdar or Rowan, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, you can't, it doesn't exist. And
Yeah.
it's almost like we choose the colors in the back room. We press a button and the color
It
comes out.
pops out.
um,
Yeah. If it
and
was only
then
that easy.
I know, yeah, how cool would that be? And then it's, I like this yarn, but it's made abroad, can I buy it locally made? And again, it's like, well, no, if it's
No,
from abroad, it's from abroad,
it's from the
that's
rod.
yeah. And the my garment doesn't fit, and I followed the pattern, and that's all about swatching. And I think that was the last one, I think. So we can go back now.
Swatches lie though.
They do, actually. I just did one the other day, and yeah, I can confirm they lie. Because it's different times of year, different times of day. Your hands can be hotter or cooler,
Mm-hmm.
and that affects your gauge as well, doesn't it? It's really
Yep.
strange how tiny things can.
Well,
Um,
even more how relaxed if you get into the zone when you're knitting, you get more relaxed and your gauge changes too. And
yeah, yeah, it's definitely, yeah. The longer you knit a project, the more relaxed you get, don't you? Yeah, it's
well, and two, I think with swatches, you want to get it done because you want to start your project, so you're always kind of in a hurry.
yeah, that's true.
So I don't know that, you
Yeah,
actually are knitting the way you would knit the project, but
isn't
I'm
it
trying
funny
to get
that
better.
yeah, the thing is, like, knitting a swatch is still knitting, so it should still be as enjoyable, but it isn't as enjoyable as knitting the project, is it?
No, it's
It's
not.
strange. Um, okay, so then we have the second pattern of the issue, and this is by the amazing Cheryl of
Oh,
Wise Owl
yes.
Knits,
Who's a
and
sweetheart.
yeah, and I was so chuffed that she let us put this in the magazine. It's a shawl, and it's a, I've said this before, it's a simple pattern, but I don't mean that in a derogatory
It's not a
way.
complex. It's not a
Yeah,
complex pattern,
that's a better way
but
of
it's
phrasing it, isn't it?
gorgeous. It's
Yeah,
gorgeous.
and I can imagine you would memorize the pattern after so many
Oh
repeats,
yeah,
and
I would think so.
and what's great about it is you could make it as long or as short as
Hmm.
it's wearable. The moment it becomes a wearable scarf or shawl, then you could stop knitting it if you ran out of yarn, or
Hmm.
you got bored of the pattern or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it's very it's knitted on a very open gauge, a very loose gauge, I think, because I can't remember. uh it's DK, um but there's a lot of lace, or is it
Yeah,
drop
it's
stitches? I can't remember. So it is quite open, isn't it?
hmm she
I
does
love the
wonderful
color.
patterns.
Yeah, I saw she's done a cable sweater. I think and it's a man's sweater, and I just keep looking at
Hmm.
it and keep looking at it. And I'm not very
She's
good at
done a few.
cables, so I'm
It's
thinking I'm going to knit it eventually.
she's done a few cable patterns, and some men patterns too, and knit it because her patterns are extremely well written. Like
Yeah.
they make it very easy to read. Tabitha's done several of her cable patterns, and
Ah.
she's a sweetheart. I actually got to meet her a few weeks ago in person, so that was fun.
Ah. Right.
So, but
That's
yeah,
cool.
she was knitting
Well,
a cable hat. I think
I'm
it's the one that just
hoping
came out.
I'm hoping she'll come on as a guest after New Year. So I've asked her, but I only asked her
Yay!
today. So whether she will or not, I don't know.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so, because I think she's going to be very, very interesting to talk to, because I'm hoping she'll show some of her design process. What she, um, so anyway, so the next article is The Laziest Knitter, and this is probably one of the most popular articles that comes out in the magazine. And this article is really good. Again, they're always good that she
Hmm.
does, and it's about
They
yarn
are.
snobbery. And
Hmm.
when I read it, it kind of really made me self-reflect, which is always a good thing in an article, because I wasn't sure whether I was a yarn snob or not. But then reading it, I don't think I am, because I do knit with acrylic. I do knit with nice yarns, expensive yarns, but I knit with what I can afford at the time,
Yeah, I think I've
you know.
become a bit more of one now that I'm knitting because I tend to knit with finer, nicer yarns than when I was crocheting because it was almost exclusively acrylic because it was mostly blankets and
Yeah,
sweaters and things.
yeah,
So I tend to use wool more now. Now that I know
yeah.
more about it. Before I was the snob who I wasn't going to use that expensive stuff when I could get the acrylic stuff. And when you're
Yeah.
crocheting, it takes so much more yarn. I couldn't afford it. But knitting, I'm more selective and um,
Yeah, one thing I was thinking about is as you get better as a knitter, you generally start on the cheap stuff because you're learning and making mistakes, and as you get better, you start to want to have better tools, don't you? You want better needles
yeah.
and you want better yarns. So the more proficient you are as a knitter, probably the nicer the yarn is that you want to work with.
Well,
Um,
and we've got some wonderful indie dyers, but not
we
only
have,
that, we have great places like Skeins where you can get phenomenal, wool yarn
yeah.
for an amazing price.
I ordered some skein yarn just before Christmas, and it arrived from New Zealand to here within exactly 7 days,
Oh yeah, it's
which
amazing
is
how fast they
amazing.
come.
Yeah, and
She
it's
has great
literally
yarn
the other
and it
side of the road,
she
other
has
side of the
great
world.
yarn and it's amazingly affordable. And then she does these sales and it's like ask
Yeah.
Tabitha, she's the queen of Southlander.
Yeah. Well, I bought Sockmatician DK this time round. I bought the very dark grey one. I bought 10 of those, and I bought five
Ooh.
of the pale grey one, and a couple of the other colours. Just some of the none of those colours aren't bright. They're rainbow colours, but they're very muted. They're called Moody
Yeah.
Hues, I think is the name, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But I've got the 4-ply, the fingering weight, and it's really nice. But I don't want to make a sweater out of the fingering weight. I want the DK. I think the only
I
thing
have
with
a
it
hat
is that. Oh, sorry, go on.
I have a hat pattern in that yarn
Oh, you do?
in the
Ah.
DK. Yeah.
Oh, you'll have to let me see where that is. I'll have to have a look at that.
I'll
Um,
it's not on my website yet. I was revamping it, but it should be up
right.
soon. I knit it. I came designed it for Marie to give to her Facebook group people
Yeah.
um, as a free pattern for them.
Cool. Yeah, because if I've got enough left at the end of doing the sweater, then I'll probably have enough to do a hat, hopefully. Um, Yeah, so are we yarn snobs? I don't know. Oh, one of the other things she talks about here is about the this whole sustainable movement, and how people don't want to buy sheep's wool because it's been sheared and they've been bred for the wool and somehow it's cruel, but they're quite happy to knit with stuff that's been made out of petrol.
Oil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's possibly destroying the earth. Not that I believe in any of that nonsense. And then
You
there's
mean
all.
like the vegans who wear a leather belt?
Yes, though. Yes. Well, I tell you what, I didn't know. Apparently, all the plastic from our clothing ends up in the water. It ends up in the food chain, and apparently, our blood contains plastic. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know how true that is. It's in the article, and I can't imagine. She didn't do a research. So, um, but anyway, that's worth reading. And this is the rest of Marie's article, which we went through already. And then Andre Sue did another great pattern. And this
Oh
is
yeah,
a pair.
hers are lovely.
Well, the thing that I love about Andy's patterns are the way every photograph she takes could be a cover. Because I
Mm-hmm.
did this image at the bottom right here. I debated for a long time whether that was going to be the cover or not. And that's why I initially changed the blocked logo so that it was upright instead of sideways, so
Mm-hmm.
that it could run down the side of the foot there.
Yeah.
Or over the boot, but in the end, it just didn't work. I couldn't get it to work because it meant cropping it in the wrong place, and then it
Right.
lost some of the appeal. So I didn't use it in the end, but it could have been
No,
used. Yeah, and
her
this is a
patterns are
toe-up
great.
sock. Yeah, I think it's a worsted weight sock. This, or is it? No, it might be DK. Sorry, it's DK, and it's a
Yeah.
toe-up sock. And what I've not knitted it yet, but I want to. But what I like about it is that I prefer toe-up socks, but
Me too.
I've never found one that has the proper heel flap and gusset that's toe up, and this one has that. So I
I
need to
don't
test
use
it.
I don't usually use toe. I haven't knit socks in a while, but I use the um, garter stitch heel
Ah,
um,
right.
from Knit Pearl Hunter. It's all garter stitch. It's a short row heel, so you have to do a few extra rows to make it long enough. But it's really
Right.
squishy because it's garter stitch, so it makes a really nice squishy heel to wear.
Right. Do you still have to have like the triangular gusset as well, or does it?
You
Do you not
can
have
if you
that?
need you can if you need to have more space in there, but
Yeah.
you don't have to. Um, I usually only knit socks for my daughter now because she goes to school up in Utah where it gets very
Right.
cold and she sleeps in them. But I haven't knit socks in a while, so I do want to try Andy Sue's patterns though. That's been
Yeah.
on my list.
They're very well written as well. Very well written. Uh,
Hmm.
excuse me. Then we have another article by Anna Knitter. And this
Yay!
one is basically how she became a knitter and how she started a business and everything. This is her husband, Tommy, I think it is. She
Yeah.
only married him recently. And he's promised, I don't know when it's going to happen, but he's promised to write an article for the magazine. And I think it's going to be quite fun because he wants to write it, because he's not a knitter. So he's going to write it from the perspective of someone looking in at a knitter. So I think it's going to be, his idea of what happens, like a bit like, waving a magic wand and then all of a sudden you've got a sock. I think it'll be good. I don't know
Oh
when he's
yeah,
going to
that'll
do
be
it though.
good.
Yeah.
That'll be cute.
Someone's I mentioned this. There's an echo when I speak. Yeah, it's something to do with my setup, and I don't know what it is. So I apologise for that. I can hear it myself, but when we did the sound check before we came on, Liz couldn't hear it. Could you? So it's definitely
Mm-mm.
something to do with me. So sorry
I'm
about
still
that.
not hearing it. I'm still not hearing it. So sorry that they're hearing it.
Count yourself lucky that you're hearing me twice. So good, I said it twice.
That'll give all your fans something to talk about, Neil.
Yeah.
That they had to
Oh,
hear you twice.
but look what we have now.
I know.
Wow, who designed this? What was it?
That
Somebody
would
very,
be
was it lazy? No, what did they call you?
immature.
Immature. Yeah, somebody very
Immature
immature.
designer.
Yeah.
Yeah, this I designed for my daughter. Um,
It's a lovely hat.
oh,
And
thank you.
yeah, were you impressed that I knew where the name came from or
Yes.
not?
No,
Yeah.
because you knew comic books, so I wasn't
Yeah.
surprised that you knew it because she's a huge comic book fan, and I saw the stitch pattern, and she's like, "Oh, that looks like flames," and one of her favorite characters is the Human Torch, so Flame On, that became the name of the hat,
Yeah, because if you
and
don't know, that's what the Human Torch says to set himself on fire, isn't it? He goes, flame on, and then he's on fire.
yeah.
So, yeah, I love this hat, and I've been meaning to knit it for someone as a gift, and I've just not got
Oh,
round to
thank you.
doing it.
It's
Is this,
simple lace. There's no cables. It's just a simple lace pattern
ah,
with yarn overs and knit togethers, and just I saw the stitch pattern, thought it would make a pretty hat.
they're cleverer,
And
I think, than cables, actually. Like the kind of faux lace and faux cables, the
hmm
increase, decrease. I think they're always so much cleverer because it's like, how did they work that out to get that?
yeah,
So,
I love the faux cables because sometimes you want the effect, but you don't want to have to pull out a cable needle
yeah,
all the
yeah.
time. Or like I try to do hats that beginners and designs beginners can knit, and sometimes I don't want to do a full on cable because that might be intimidating. Whereas,
Yeah, well, I find I was talking about this last night. When I do cables, the last stitch, so the last knit of the cable before you go back to the purl stitch, is just way too loose, and it just annoys me too much. And there's always a hole that I can't cope with. And I know there are ways to tighten it, which I've tried, but it ends up becoming a chore then rather than a pleasure to do it. So I kind of avoid doing cables now. Um, I don't know. There's just something about them. It doesn't quite work for me. Although brioche, I could do brioche all day. I love brioche.
that's on my list. I have not done brioche. That I want to learn this year coming up because that's one that I've been
What
planning to,
kind,
but I've just never got around to it.
what style of knitter are you?
Continental.
You'll be fine. I think brioche is harder for people that knit English style. If you're a thrower, it's hard.
Hmm.
You can still do it, but it's more effort. Whereas if you're a plucker, is it? That's what they call continental style, isn't it? If you're a
Yeah.
plucker, it's just about moving the yarn over the needle. It's a lot easier.
I
Um,
was a crocheter first for decades, so continental makes sense. I can do English a little bit, but I don't like it. I do use Norwegian purling though. That's my purling.
Yes, I
Uh,
learned how to do that, and I do it every now and again. But I just find that because you do like a little dance, don't you?
hmm
You kind of
Yeah,
come in
it's more
from the
like a crochet stitch. It's like doing a double crochet,
yeah,
basically.
yeah, it is, isn't
To
it?
me, to my mind. So that's how I could learn it because I couldn't learn how to do it English when I was trying to teach myself how to knit. And I saw an Arnie and Carlos video on how to do
Yeah,
Norwegian purl. I'm
that's
like,
where
oh,
I
this
saw it
totally
as
makes
well. Yeah,
sense. Like this totally makes sense for a crocheter's perspective.
yeah.
And so yeah, but
Well, if I ever do the second part to the knitting for crocheters, when I do the purl, I'll probably use that as the example
yeah.
because if you saying that it made more sense for you as a crochet, then I'll definitely
Well, because you're
work on
holding
that.
the needle this almost the same way you hold a crochet. Well, some people hold their crochet hooks, like this.
Oh, like a pen.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
I never did. I always held it like a knife.
yeah, same as
So
me.
it just
Yeah,
made sense to the Norwegian Pearl makes sense
yeah.
that way to me. But
The
I've
only
heard a lot of
thing,
crocheters say that.
yeah, the only thing I found with doing the Norwegian purl is that I found it can sometimes stretch. If you don't do it
hmm
if you don't do it in a really sort of seamless way, if you're doing it slow, it
Well,
stretches the stitch a little bit sometimes, doesn't it?
yeah, I think once you've done it enough, and I tend to do it like in two movements, like just like two motions, one through and one back through, kind of to make it less loose. But
Yeah.
I think it's just practice. Like I
The other
do a lot of
thing, though,
cardigans. A lot of people do more pullovers where they're doing stockinette with just knitting, but I
yeah.
do a lot of cardigans, so I do a lot of purling. So
So you need something faster then, don't you? The only thing
yeah,
I found though, because now I'm a Portuguese knitter because of
right.
my
Which purling
hands.
is easy.
It's so much easier. Yeah, so it's easier to do Portuguese than it would be to do Norwegian.
Well,
But when I
sure.
have done Norwegian, what I found, although you're moving your fingers less, you're moving your wrists quite a bit, especially when you're doing the pearl. And I just found that it made my wrists really painful. So I've kind of abandoned it a little bit now. But I'm glad I've learnt it because if I ever teach anybody how to knit, I want to try and teach them that method because I think it is one of the most one of the quickest methods, at least the knitting is, isn't it? Because you do the Norwegian knit, your fingers are so close to the
Yeah,
needles.
it's
You
yeah, they're
don't have
right.
that, do you?
Yeah. No, I don't do that. That to me, that's just wasted. You know.
Wasted energy.
Well,
I know
yeah,
when
it just it's like I
I,
hold my yarn the same way I do when I crochet on the right and the left hand. So it's just a matter of
I know
how
when
I work
Arnie
the right
was
hand needle.
talking about teaching people how to do Norwegian knit stitch, and he was saying all the Americans, you could see the fingers were slowly starting to rise, with the yard till they were up there like that.
I think it's more an economy of movement. To me, the smaller the movements are, the less stress I have in my hands and wrists. I have carpal tunnel, and I've
Yeah.
had surgery twice, so the
Oh, you
least
had it
amount
twice.
of hmm
Well, not to bore everyone and talk about our medical ailments, but I had the surgery. I've had it once, but on both hands, and mine is back now. But I don't want to have the second surgery because I'm not sure if there's any point.
where this do you have the brace to sleep in?
No, not at the moment. It's not that bad at the moment,
No,
so
no,
I'm
no, no.
not.
I'm
Go
telling
on.
you, go on Amazon and order the splint. It's called a cock splint. Your hand is like this because what
Yeah.
happens with carpal tunnel is you do it. It's what you do during the day, but it's also when you're sleeping because when you're sleeping, your hands tend to curl in and it pinches the nerve while you're sleeping, and the splint
Right.
keeps the nerve open while you're asleep. So it actually gives it time to help heal from what you're doing during the day.
So I do
And
need to. Right.
wear it at night, just sleep in it, and then give it a week and tell me that you're not better.
Yeah, I did have a splint originally before I had the surgery, and then I just never wore one after that. Right, no, I'm going to do that. So that's
I
the
wear
same
it
for everybody
occasionally.
watching, by the way. If
Yeah.
you're a knitter, you probably need to do exactly the same, don't you?
Well, I got it from, I was a bank teller, and the counter that I stood at was much higher. I'm short, I'm only 5'2", and the counter was high, so the angle in which my hand was for all the calculating is what gave me carpal tunnel. And actually, my doctor said crocheting actually helped with it because it kept the muscles moving and it kept the tendons loose.
and in a different motion
Mm-hmm.
from
Yeah.
I blame because when I think I mentioned this on one of the knitting wars when I first started knitting it was coincidental, but I had a really severe allergic reaction to something, and I was covered from head to foot in a really awful rash that lasted about 3 weeks,
Ooh.
and I made the assumption that it was the only thing that I could think that was new was wool, and I was knitting. I was learning to knit again, even though I'd learnt when I was younger. But I didn't know whether I'd knitted with acrylic or wool before. And I just assumed that I was allergic to it, even though my mum said, "You're not allergic to it because I used to put you in wool when you were a baby." And I was like, well, maybe I've developed it. But it wasn't. I wasn't allergic to it. So what I did was I was knitting with bamboo for a long time instead. And there's
Which
no
is less
give.
give.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
less give than cotton, and I think
did
that's
you
why.
did you ever have that allergy again?
No, so I don't know what it was. I have
It might
absolutely
have
no
been.
idea.
Do you eat a lot of tomatoes?
Uh, Sometimes I do. Well, yes,
Because my
occasionally.
mom, that happened to her one summer. She got allergic to tomatoes of all things, and she was from the South and ate tomatoes all the time. But one summer, she had a rash all over from tomatoes, and
Oh
she
wow,
only had it one time in her life, and it went away, and she never had it again. But that summer, she could not. She had to stay away from tomatoes.
wow. Yeah, because it was. I've never had it since, and it was literally every bit of me
Mm-hmm.
was covered. It was
Yeah,
awful,
that's how
and it
she
was
was.
like mountain ranges. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what you call it. Do you call them welts? I don't know what the word
Yes,
is
she
for them.
couldn't. She couldn't knit.
Yeah.
She couldn't do anything except read, because
Oh,
it was just
it's
painful.
horrible. Yeah, so horrible. I was even sorry. Everyone's like, "What are we talking about?" Everyone. I was even doing baths in porridge oats, oats, because apparently
Mm-hmm.
that's supposed to soothe it. But the only
Yep.
thing that did work in the end was nettle tea,
Huh.
and I started drinking it, and it went away. But it could be the coincidence it was going away anyway. But I swear by nettle tea now. So any kind of allergies I get, that's
Hey,
what I
if it
do.
worked, it worked. But yeah, it
Yeah,
could have been that. But
yeah.
because she
That's
did, her
interesting.
whole hands were
Yeah.
just covered in welts, and
And has she carried on eating tomatoes?
she did. She passed away years ago, but she did.
Ah,
I mean, after that summer, she went right back to eating them and never had a problem. But her doctor said she had developed a sudden onset allergy.
wow. I bet it was the same kind of thing then, but maybe it
It could
wasn't
have just been
tomatoes. Yeah,
something. Could have been something in the tomatoes she was
yeah,
getting that summer from the farm that she got them from. Something about their
yeah.
blend or whatever. But it was really weird.
So I just think all the wool I could have been knitting with at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, now you know.
so, so on the next page we've got a couple of adverts. So we've got an advert for Anna Knitter's socks, the Helgen socks. So to view the pattern, to get the pattern, I think it's a paid for pattern. You just scan the QR code or
Hmm.
go to a website and you'll find it on there. And then this is the drop stitch of the month. And this is quite
Yes.
topical at the moment because it's only in the last week, I think. The lady here, Zoe, she's called, she actually posted a picture on Instagram on her stories, and she's printed this off and framed it. And so obviously she wasn't offended by the picture at all and thought it was a
She was
decent
the one in
picture.
she was the one in Canada, right?
That's right. Yeah, she's in the French part of Canada, Montreal. She's in. So
Right.
she was the drop stitch of the month because it's a long convoluted story, so I'll try and condense it quite short. I highly recommend reading the article because it's a it's a what's the word? It's almost like it's a lesson to learn because the other person that it concerns is this guy here. He's called Vincent.
Yeah. Yeah, she was okay, yeah, okay. She was the right. Now I remember that his thing happened in Montreal. Now I remember.
That's right. Yeah. So what happened was he got cancelled, and you can read why in all of these screenshots here. But basically, he's a designer. I don't know whether he's married, but his partner is also a designer called Max, and the pair of them did a vlog called Les Garçons, I think it's called,
Yep.
and they
Hmm.
both do designs, and they're good designers. They
Oh
are good
yeah,
designers.
he does his yarn too. I think
Oh,
I
does he
think
dye
he did.
yarn? Ah,
Yeah, they have
yeah.
their own yarn.
Oh gosh, so you're right. So and what he did, he ended up being cancelled because he criticised another designer's sock pattern, I believe it was. But he criticised it, and it was a bit off. It was a bit cruel, you know. It wasn't exactly nice, but it wasn't so bad that he
But it
should
was
be
on Reddit,
cancelled.
wasn't it?
It
Wasn't
was.
it
It was
on Reddit?
on Craft Snark, which
You
is,
can't
if you've
expect
ever
people to be
been,
not. People aren't nice on there, so
no, they're evil. I mean, if you've the things that are on there are far worse than what he wrote. You know, they're venomous on that site. So why they picked on him, I'm not sure. But the lady that was the one behind it all was Zoe, and she has
right.
a shop called Boutique Crochet, and she basically led the charge and got him cancelled. And Vincent ended up writing an apology, and like we always say, do not apologize, you know, because it wasn't good enough. And basically he's now cancelled, and his own boyfriend stroke husband Max kind of denounced him as well, and
Yeah,
now he's been cut out of the business completely, and for all intents and purposes he's disappeared online. You know, nobody has heard from him since. um
that's that I couldn't believe that he just dumped him like that.
Yeah, it's like such a betrayal, isn't it? Because I think, you know, if you've got a partner, you should at least, you know, stand by them. You know, you don't have to agree with what they've done, but you should, you know,
No,
publicly stand by them. But as I
don't kick
was,
him out. Yeah, publicly
yeah,
kicked him out of the business.
exactly, yeah. And as I was, you know, reading up on Vincent, feeling very sorry for him, thinking, oh, you know, this is awful, what's happened to him. Then I uncovered a whole separate story that is far worse, where
Hmm.
he had been part of the mob, and he and Zoe, so together, they were friends at one point. Clearly, they went for another shop. So the shop is called Le Maison Tricoté, I think it is, and what's really sad about this is that that shop is, it's a great shop, by the way. If you go on the website, they sell yarn by the meter or by the yard,
Hmm.
so you could get exactly the amount of yarn you need for your project. But they had helped Zoe set her business up and had loaned her yarn and money with no interest applied, and then Zoe stabbed them in the back, basically, because
Well,
what
didn't he get
happened.
people fired?
Yeah, well, what happened is it got a bit muddy after the magazine was published, after this article was published. But what happened was it was all in French as well, so I had to get someone to translate. So it took a bit of time to work all that out. But there were two ladies that worked at the shop. One of them was this guy's wife, and he's called Benoit. And Benoit was the sort of technical guy who did all the IT stuff, and he was filming them doing their vlog. So one of the women was his wife, and then there was another girl that worked at the shop, and it was really well done. I mean, I watched a couple of them in French, not understanding what they were saying, but the quality of what they were presenting was fantastic. But then apparently, what happened? Benoit said a joke off camera, and the joke, it was, why are gay men so fashionable? And then the punchline is because they spent years in the closet. Now, it doesn't matter
That's
whether
a
you,
really that's a really old joke.
yeah, it's been around for years, and it's like, it doesn't matter whether you agree with that joke or not. It's kind of a little bit, you know, it's the kind of thing kids say at school, isn't it? You know, it was a bit immature. It doesn't, you know, but it's hardly hurtful, really. You know, and it's actually a compliment to gay men being fashionable. You know what I mean? But anyway, Zoe, sorry, not Zoe. Yes, Zoe and Vincent saw this, and because they're both gay, they took it personally and demanded an apology from the shop and wouldn't let it go. And the shop actually did issue an apology. And I think, I can't remember, it was either 3 or 5 times the shop owner apologized for what had happened. And they still weren't happy. And Vincent demanded that the shop make reparations to the gay community for all the hurt that they had caused by this joke being aired, which was immediately deleted from offline. So nobody else seems to have seen it. And then during all of the backlash, the hatred and the abuse and the threats that they were receiving at the shop, the 3 people involved, so 2 people that just heard the joke, they didn't even say the joke, they all ended up losing their jobs. Now, where it gets a bit woolly is that when I was told the story, so there's 2 versions of the story, and Benoit, he says he was fired, but the shop owner says no, he wasn't fired. He left of his own accord, but he felt like he had no choice because of what the people were saying to him and what they were doing. So either way, three people ended up losing their jobs. And the Zoe, she did a video afterwards where she was ecstatic. She was gleeful that these people had lost their jobs, and that's why she was drop stitch of the month rather than Vincent. Actually,
Right.
you know,
Well,
sorry, go on.
I wonder if the reaction to what he did with the pattern was overkill because people were unhappy about the other situation.
It could be. It could
You
be.
know,
Yeah. But the
and
the
they
interesting there though is that Zoe was behind that one as well. So Zoe has a track record of causing trouble basically. And
Zoe
she's an
should spend more
interesting
time
person.
crocheting.
Yeah. Well, she's an interesting person because she is very feminine. She presents as a woman. She acts like a woman. She wears makeup. She's always very well presented. And she's gay. She has a girlfriend who is more of a masculine presenting
Good for her
woman.
then if she's happy.
Yeah. But here's the thing is that she has now announced that she's non-binary, and I don't actually know what she thinks she is. I don't know whether she thinks she's male or female or neither or the other or whatever. And this coincided. This joke that Benoit said coincided with her coming out as non-binary, and I think the impetus behind what she did was because she felt it was aimed at her, even though it wasn't, and he says that it wasn't. And yeah, it's I don't know, I think to me, if somebody isn't directly mentioned in the joke, you're quite able to say to someone, I didn't like that joke, but to try and
Right.
cancel them over it is a little bit too much, I think. But yeah, it's here we go. I think we've got a couple of questions. How do I find someone to demand reparations from? I've been offended by things in my life. But do you matter? Are you part of a group, says Anne? You need to join a group, a minority.
Yeah, that's right. You need to get with the program.
Yeah. Um, so it's quite a long article, but it's interesting, and it's almost like a bit of a warning. What you do today, it could be you tomorrow. If you're bullying someone, it might be you the next time around.
Yeah, I was surprised there wasn't more outrage about getting people fired for that, or if just people were just afraid to express their outrage, maybe. I don't know.
Well, what I think happened, I think because it all happened in French, because it was
Maybe, yeah.
French Canada, I think that it kind of got completely missed, really, by the English-speaking knitting world. So, yeah, I think that's why. Because I know somebody contacted me, connected to the shop, to thank me for actually publishing this, because they said it was the first time their side of the story had actually been aired. Up until that point, people that knew about it just thought that they had fired Benoit for no apparent reason, really. That nobody understood what had actually gone on. So it was just really sad. And when I spoke to them, I just got this impression that everybody was devastated about it, and really they shouldn't have let him go. I don't think.
Well, there comes a time when, you just have to realize that you're going to hear things that offend you, and
Mm,
and, you know, grown-ups understand when something's not directed intentionally at them as an insult, that, you pick your battles and you move on. I mean, getting
yeah.
people fired because you heard something that wasn't even addressed to you directly is just mean and cruel.
Well, I wrote this here towards the end of the article and said, here is what should have happened. Benoit tells his joke. Zoe doesn't like it. Zoe shrugs and moves on. Vincent doesn't hear about the joke as Zoe doesn't make a big issue of it. Or Vincent does hear the joke, doesn't like it, shrugs and moves on. A year passes. Zoe hears about Vincent's comments about a designer's heel construction. Zoe doesn't like it. Zoe shrugs and moves on. No one is harmed. Three people still have their jobs, and a fourth still has his design and yarn dyeing business. Oh, sorry, I did know he dyed yarn. I
Yeah.
must have forgotten. But yeah, all of the drama, it's. I just think sometimes people need to be careful. Be aware of your own actions. Sometimes.
Well,
Um,
it's, you know, people in glass houses because
yeah,
nobody's perfect. No, people say things all the time that anyone could find hurtful in some way, shape, or form. And if you're not taking the intent when which something's said into consideration, like, people are mad. I read an article's mad because people said to her Merry Christmas and she's not Christian. Okay,
Yeah.
well, they don't know you from, whether or not you're Christian, but just by saying Merry Christmas, they're wishing you the tidings and the good and the joy of Christmas. They're not trying to be insulting. You could get insulted, or you could say, take it in the manner in which, it was expressed. Well, like, I have friends, Happy Hanukkah. I'm not Jewish, but I take it what they mean. They're
Yeah.
wishing me the, and I think
Well,
people have to start looking at things that way.
yeah, it's a bit like the prayer thing, isn't it? Because I know a few years ago in this country, a nurse was fired from a job because she said a prayer quietly by the side of one of the patient's beds, and a member of her family, not the nurse's family, a member of the patient's family, overheard it and basically complained, and she got fired. And it's a bit,
Which is
similar,
ridiculous.
similar thing, isn't it? Now we're on to this hat that I'm wearing. So this is the pattern
Yes.
for this hat. So this is the sieve head hat, and the reason it's called sieve head, well, for two reasons, is something I call myself because I forget things all the time. I forget names. While we've been talking, I'll be like, "Oh, I can't remember that word" or whatever. So I call it. So a sieve, obviously, is where you drain things with a hole in it. So that's my brain. But this is a hat that is reversible. It's a little bit like what's it called? The muscle bra? Is it the muscle bra?
Musselburgh or yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
It's kind of a similar concept, but knitted completely differently. So you knit it sideways. Is that the right way? Um,
Hmm.
so it's kind of long like that. So you knit it from the top. Well, you knit it side to side using short rows, and one side has got
Okay.
holes in it. I say holes. I should say lace, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
It's one
Yeah.
side's got holes in. Oh, so the lace, and then the idea is that when you wear it with the neutral color, which this one is black. See, now I've pulled it apart. I won't be able to get it back together again now until you might be able to see. Where's the camera?
The color through. Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it because it's a bit dark, but you can just see little bits of the color. So
Hmm.
it's kind of a nice hat if you want to introduce color, but you don't really want to be seen from a mile away. Um, I can see it better there now. I don't know if it's showing on the camera
I can
or not
see a
really.
little bit. I can see a
Yeah, it's
little bit.
better in real life. You can see it more. Um, so and then so you can wear it either way, and it's knitted with fingering weight. So when it's doubled up, it's actually quite warm. It's warmer than you imagine it'd be.
Which you need right now
Yes.
with your.
Yeah, well, I find that because it is quite cold here at the moment, but if I wear a sweater, I'm too hot. So all I need to do is wear a hat, and it kind of keeps me at the perfect temperature.
My grandmother always wore hats because she said you lose your heat through the top of your head. So she always had a hat on.
Yeah, I
She
always
would.
believed that, but somebody said recently to me because I think I wrote something about this in one of the magazines. I think it was the issue 5, I think, and someone said that isn't actually true. But I always thought that was true.
I always
Um,
thought that was true because my grandma
yeah.
always had a crocheted hat on. She would make crochet berets, and she always had one
Ah,
on. She slept in them.
ah. Oh, did she? Wow,
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah.
And this is knitted. This particular one is knitted with opal sock yarn as well. So I did it with minis. Well, I did the color, the coloured bit with minis. The black one is just a full,
Right.
skein. So it's knitted in wedges, if that's the only, it's the only way I can describe it, really. Then we've got an article which we had to put in 2 parts because it ended up being really long. And Cezanne did a lot of work on this. If Cezanne's watching, I think she was sick of this article in the end. She didn't write it, but she did edit it quite heavily. So she did a lot of work on. But it's interesting because it's written by somebody that has a farm and does the whole process from feeding the grass where the flock are feeding from right through to yarn at the other end. So the whole thing is how yarn is made, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing now because it's quite complex. It goes into quite a lot of detail, but if you want to know how your
Oh
yarn
yeah, that
got to
was
where
good.
it is,
That was a good article.
yeah, it was a good article actually, and I think there's I don't know. It's Erin wrote it, and I don't know whether there's another part that's going to be released in the future. I can't remember. I'm sure there was something else she was going to write. I've forgotten now. But part 2 of this is in the next issue.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
then we had Ragamuffin, who's I believe they're called sewists now. I want to say tailor or seamstress, but it's a sewist. And
Yeah, that's a term.
yeah, we did a bit of a collab. We did a collaboration, and she designed a DPN holder for us, and it was
Yep.
quite funny because she didn't actually know how it worked, but she managed to design it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And the pattern, what we did, because the magazine was getting really long, and we didn't have we could have enough pages, but BS has advised me that we should keep the magazine at a certain length to stop people getting bored as they're reading it. And we decided to put the pattern, because it's quite an in-depth pattern. I think it's about 7 or 8 pages long. You can access it by clicking on the link.
Yeah, I made the sample for her.
Oh, did you? Oh, I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah, I knit the
Ah,
sample out of Two Sisters and Some yarn, the colorway that Sweet
ah.
Mountain Crafts did for them, and
Oh,
it's a little
brilliant.
sock sample, yeah, for her to use for her photos.
Ah. Oh, there it is, isn't it? So that's the ball
Yeah.
of yarn there. Ah, of
Mm-hmm.
course it is. Oh, I didn't realize that. I
Yeah.
know Maria Tuscan made this DPN holder using the
Mm-hmm.
pattern. This one, I know that was
Yeah.
Maria's.
Well,
Did
Jen
you?
lives in Las Vegas too, so she actually lives
Ah,
in not far from me, so we met up, and I gave her
ah,
it's half a sock. It's just part of a tube so that she could
ah.
show how the DPNs went in.
You kept that quiet. You never told me.
I thought she did. That was a while ago.
Oh, she may have done. I can't remember. Oh no, that's cool. I didn't realize that. Yeah, and I
Hmm.
never made the connection that that was the Two Sisters yarn with Sweet Mountain Crafts as well. That's cool.
Yep.
Um, and then one thing that BS did that I thought was great is she changed the way we'd been putting the designers and indie dyer adverts in, and she changed them into like business cards, which
Yeah, I
seemed to
like
make more
those.
sense. Yeah,
You,
and because that one's yours there, isn't it? I don't know
yeah,
that people
thank
can
you.
see in the middle. So we used 3 of the patterns that you'd made and
Thank you.
designed. And then here on the right, I'll zoom in. This is a cartoon that I put in. It's about Elon Musk taking over Twitter. So, did you hear Elon Musk has bought Twitter? And then it's like, oh, he's such a fascist. And then people we don't agree with will be able to tweet. And then it's, what? Oh my God, what will we do now? And then it's, I know, we can leave Twitter. That will show them. Yes, we will come. They'll come back begging us to go back, which is kind of what happened. They were also, I'm leaving now. I'm not, not being there. So anyway, they're waiting. They're waiting. 30 minutes later, did we crush the patriarchy? No, and freedom of speech is back. And it was Maggie Ann gave me the idea for this, so
Yeah.
that's why she's credited there. Um,
Yeah, and a lot of them flouncing off of Twitter, hoping that someone's going to beg him to come back, and just don't foresee that happening. I'm sorry, but
Oh, and the other thing that BS changed for us, which I think again is better, is all the bloggers and vloggers. She changed it
hmm
just into a list with the links, and it seems to work better. Because it was getting confusing, I think, for people which were designers and dyers and which were vloggers. So it's nice to have the
right,
different format. Then we've got a couple more patterns. We've got this lovely hearts and stripes pom-pom hat, which is made in bulky yarn, and it's duplicate stitch, so it's not
yeah,
intarsia. So you do it in stripes, and then you add the heart afterwards. And I kind of liked it because you could do the hat without the heart if you
hmm
wanted to do it for somebody that doesn't like hearts on there.
right.
It's quite cute.
Bulky hats are good.
Yeah. Oh, well, great Christmas present. So hopefully somebody may have seen that to do some presents before Christmas. And then this I thought was really cute. It's a dog coat, and it's mosaic knitting, isn't it? Where you do the slip stitch color work.
Hmm.
So you're only ever knitting in one color. But I thought that was cool because even if you haven't got a dog, you could adapt that pattern.
Right.
And again,
Oh,
you click
sure.
on the link and it takes you to the pattern. Because again, it was a very long pattern because she went into a lot of detail about how to do the motif, which was really useful, really good. Then I have another cartoon here, again to do with Elon Musk, and so that's supposed to be Elon. And then
Yeah.
the woke is afraid because he's let Twitter free.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got some adverts, and then right at the very end, this was interesting. These vignettes, an author, contacted me and asked me if I was interested in publishing these two tiny bits of writing. He said he wasn't going to do anything with them, but they both kind of had a link to knitting. So we put them in just to see what people's reaction would be, and it seemed to be that people did want to have some kind of fiction in there. So we now have
Mm-hmm.
a writer, Dee
Yeah,
Marie.
she's really good.
Yeah, so we didn't get one in the last issue because I think we ran out of space, but we're going to do something in future where again we can have the link to go to her
Oh, good.
website to read it, because she's written quite a few books, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she has.
And so I'll probably, the next one we do, I'll be talking more about that, because I think the first story she did is in the next issue, I think. So, and that was it. That was issue 3.
Yeah.
So
It
I
seems
don't know.
so long ago.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. So I don't know. Is anybody in the audience want to ask any questions about issue 3? Is anybody still there? I've not seen any
Besides
new comments
us,
for a
I
while.
know.
I think it is just
Well,
us, you know.
some people have sick kids at home, and
How dare they have kids?
Yeah, well, sometimes they do when they get sick on vacation and holiday breaks, and kind of sucks, but
So what have you got
no.
planned for your next design?
Well, I'm gonna
Oh, Morgan's still here. She said, I'm still here.
hi Morgan.
It
I'm
says
working
I'm
on a
still here.
cardigan for my son that because I've been promising him one for a long time, and he kind of picked out 2 patterns, and the one he really liked, the gauge was 14 stitches per inch, or
Oh,
4
wow.
inches, and the yarn I have is a heavy DK weight. It just wouldn't work. And we found another pattern from one of our friends who don't like people of certain colors. And so I took that pattern, which I had bought years ago, not knowing who this person was. And I'm not going
Oh,
to say the
yeah,
name
I
because I'm
know.
not going to give any
Yeah,
publicity.
I know who you mean.
And
Yeah.
I've taken elements from both and combined them into a cardigan for him. And I think I'm going to come out with a pattern that's a unisex cardigan for men or women.
Brilliant.
I'm not copying their pattern. I'm just using the shape, the idea of the shape,
Yeah.
and with my own numbers and things. So I think I'm going to come out with a pattern for that. And then I have a couple more other things. I've got some things coming out in teenage yarn,
Yeah.
and I have some in Chicken Lady coming out.
Did you
An
do?
adult size pullover to
It
match the
was
paisley
you that did
pullover.
that amazing. Was it a cardigan where it had a panel? I'm
Yeah,
sure
that
that.
was me.
Yeah, that was brilliant, and that was in
That'll
teenage
be out
yarn,
this.
wasn't it?
Yeah, that'll be out this year. That was in her woke skein that she did for Kieran White. My niece was my model, and she picked the colors. She loves orange and black, so she picked
Right.
that colorway, and it really looked good. So that'll
It
be coming
did.
out later this year.
It.
I'm gonna have to test knit that, and then the paisley sweater. I did an adult companion sweater
Oh
that's
yeah,
gonna
that's
be
a
going
great
to
sweater,
test
isn't it?
knitting next month. So that'll be coming out too, and then
Is
probably some
Tabitha
hats and
test
things.
knitting it?
I'm sure she will. I think she needs to knit a bigger paisley one for Paisley because that girl's decided to grow.
How dare
Shame
she
on her.
grow?
I know. She's supposed to stay small so Tabitha can knit things quickly for her. The
Oh,
whole
this is
growing
good.
up thing is a downer.
Yeah, Dale's just put. I'm enjoying these recaps, and I'm thankful you are doing it this week. So yeah, I'm pleased that somebody, because I wasn't sure whether people would want me to
Yeah.
do them.
No, they're fun. It's
Um,
fun to look back and, hear
and
what
not
you
many
were thinking.
people. Yeah, and not many people are doing any vlogs this week, are they? Knitting related. I've not seen very many, so there's
No,
like
I think
nothing to
I'd much
watch.
rather this than like a Vlogmas because a couple minutes of
Yeah,
somebody's day where they're rushing around, it's fine. They
making
can open
coffee.
up their yarn. Yeah, here I'm making coffee and now I'm sitting down. It's like, okay, great. I could be doing that myself, but okay, I'll watch you do it. But I mean, it's fine for people to do,
Yeah,
but after the first few, it's like, just open the yarn. If it's an advent, just open the yarn. If not, because
yeah. Just show me the knitting.
show me the knitting. And that's the thing. I think we need to get more back to that. And having all the patterns in the magazine make a big deal because,
Yeah.
people give
Well,
the patterns for free. And
Well, it's interesting. When I was on Marie's show a while back, that was that was around the time of issue 3, actually, because I talked about issue 3 on her show, and I was explaining yesterday I was half asleep because it was past midnight when we did it because of the time
New
difference.
Zealand time.
Yeah, so I was just talking nonsense, and I didn't have any way of actually showing the things that we were talking about. But one of the things that we kind of came up with there was that, you know, everything around the magazine got lost in all of the drama, you know, and really when you look in the magazine, there's only ever really one article per issue that even mentions any drama, really. The rest, which is the drop stitch of the month, everything else is knitting patterns and articles that, you know,
Yeah.
anyone on either side of this, you know, woke versus non-woke thing would enjoy reading.
Well, yeah,
Um,
and the drop stitch, people are saying, oh, you're going after people of color, but those just happen to be the ones that are happening in the knitting community.
uh,
I mean, you're calling out, you're not going after people to create drama. You're writing articles about things that are happening. You can't help who the people are that are
yeah.
causing it. Like it's not, you're not saying, oh, let me find a POC person to go after this week. It's
Yeah.
it's things that are actually happening in the community, and when it's things that could be considered bad business practices,
Yeah.
you, you'd think people on both sides would be willing to take the emotion out of it and say, hey, this is wrong.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I did a bit of a breakdown. I put it on Instagram earlier, and so the drop stitch or the anywhere where I've criticised someone, I've criticised 4 black women, 3 white men, and 7 white women. And of those, so it's 14 altogether. Of those, only 3 were LGBT. So the people that I seem to pick on the most are white women.
Clearly you have an agenda against LGBTQ people. Just admit it, Neil. You're an evil white man, and clearly, oh, excuse me. Of course not. You're a black woman. Silly me. I
Yes,
forgot
how
about
dare
that.
you? How dare you misrace me and misgender me?
But you can't help who you. And I think there's a need in a community for calling something out with just putting the facts
Yeah,
without emotion. And yeah, demon trolls and some of those things are great to read about what's happening, but putting it concisely and say this and happened. It's not my truth. It's not her truth. It's the truth. And
yeah,
this is why we need to be better. And we need to treat all our knitting people better. Like all these, like some dyers don't want people to use their yarn because of the color of their skin, and some design, it's like, don't use my pattern. Okay, well, that's like, to some of the people we know, that's like waving a red cape in front of a bull saying, okay, you don't want me to use your pattern, or I'm going to use your pattern with yarn that you don't like, and I'm going to post. It's like,
yeah.
I just don't get why people spend so much time that they
Well,
could be doing other things.
yeah. Well, what happens though is there's what's that saying? It's for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put something out into the world, somebody is going to respond to that in whatever way, and it's going to be
Yes.
equally as strong. So that's kind of how I feel about Block Magazine. Well, about the drop stitch part of Block Magazine is that that's the reaction, you know, to what they've done. So, but the drop stitch thing is probably going to peter out eventually, because if they stop doing the nasty things that they're doing to people, there'll be nothing to write about. And I'm not going to write about it for the sake of writing about something. You know, it has to be something that I think people need to know about. You know,
Or bad business practices is a good
yeah,
one.
like the
But
Lady
it
Di
seems
stuff.
it seems
Yeah,
like it's toned down a little, some of the vitriol, maybe. I'm hoping
yeah.
Blocked has had part of that because people realize they will get called out.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, initially, I didn't think it was having any kind of effect because of what happened with Vincent and a couple of other people. But yeah, since Vincent, there hasn't really been anything. So we'll just have to wait and see, really, and just hope that they don't, you know, find a new Christy Glass. You know, because it was this time last year when all the Christy Glass thing had happened, wasn't it?
Well, and
Um,
and nobody's mad at Lady Di because the color of her skin.
yeah, exactly. It's got nothing to
They're
do with
angry
that, has it?
because, and it's been going on a long time. It's not like it's just
Yeah,
this one shipment she couldn't get out. It's something that's
yeah,
been going on for months, over a year. So that's something that people need to know, because if you're still offering things for sale and you're not taking care of previous customers, that needs to be known regardless of what you look like, your background or whatever.
yeah,
If you're providing a business service, it's good for the community for people to know what's going
Yeah.
on.
Exactly. Yeah, and
You know.
also we would do exactly the same if it was a white person, a Chinese person. We did the same with Sherry Tenney. That was in issue 6, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she, it's a very similar story to Lady Di. It's actually worse, but we didn't know about it before Lady Di. This is the interesting thing.
Well,
If
that's the
if
thing. If
I'd have
people
known
keep it,
about it first,
well, people keep it secret.
yeah,
They don't want to
yeah,
admit that they've, been taken in, or more along lines, there's been no recourse. Where do you go? Where do you go to tell people?
yeah,
Because if you
yeah.
go on Instagram and you call people out, someone's going to be unhappy,
And the mob, the people
and the
will
mob is
protect
good.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just don't get that. You can say, "Oh,
Oh,
it's unfortunate this person, I feel, bad that they were doing this to other
mhm,
people." But then you turn around and defend them. It's like, I
yeah,
don't get that.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
you shouldn't go after this person because of this immutable characteristic. But it's okay for them to take people's money and not provide them a product. No, that's not okay.
Yeah.
That's not how business is run, regardless of the industry.
Yeah.
That's not how
But
business is run.
but that's white supremacy, Liz.
I guess
Good
so.
business practice is white supremacy. We've had a question from Nits and Caboodles. Have you ever contacted Christy Glass for an article, Neil? Not for an article. I have contacted her and she hasn't responded in the same way Nathan Taylor doesn't. And I know why. I think they're keeping a distance. They don't, because they've gone through so much that I
They don't want
think
to bring it back. Yeah.
yeah, if there's any kind of association with me, I think people are going to jump on that and make a bigger deal of it than, because I mentioned
Yeah.
it yesterday. Both of them have been they've spread rumors about both of them that they're giving me money to do this magazine, which is not the case at all.
Well, no,
Neither
no
of
one.
them are
Yeah.
involved.
We all
And
knew
I
that from
don't
the
mind that.
beginning.
Yeah,
We.
and I respect that. I would love to have either of them on. I would love to have them in the magazine. I'd love to interview them, but I respect the fact, they've gone through something quite horrific. It's like they've probably got, or what's it called?
PTSD.
Yes, they've probably got a form of that, haven't they? An online version of that, if there is such a
Yeah,
thing.
and I totally
Yeah,
get that. It's unfortunate because I think their voices, it'd be great to have their voices out
yeah,
there. And there's so many in our community who would love to hear from them. And not just about the negativity, but just about the, Nathan's new book and what he's working on. And,
yes. Well,
it's a
Nathan,
shame when,
is
people are forced from.
the thing about Nathan is that I mean, people throw around, the genius thing quite a lot, and I don't know whether he is a genius or not. I don't want to say he is when he might not be, but he has so much to offer and has offered so much to the knitting community. The things that he has come up with, are kind of either new or they haven't been done for a very long time. Put it that way. Triple knitting. I'd never heard of that
Hmm.
before. Double knitted brioche. I know that it did exist before, but nobody had gone into the detail as much as he had.
Oh, no, I can't wait for his book. I'm one of his
Yeah.
backers
Oh, are you?
from
Oh, brilliant.
from
Do
the
you know,
beginning. Yeah.
I regret not doing it because at the time I just couldn't justify, because I think it was £25, I think it
Yeah.
was, that you had to
It was a tough
pledge.
decision, but I just, I thought, that I can forego some things
Yeah. So does he give you
because.
regular updates on how
Hmm.
that book's going? So do you know when
Yes.
it's going to be released?
I don't know for sure, but every pattern, everything's going to have its own video.
Oh,
We
wow.
have access to the videos of him knitting each thing and how to knit them and the tutorials. It's going to be a massive book, and I'm very excited for him because I would love to have a lesson from him, in person.
Yeah.
But I'm
Well,
really excited because
will the
he is
book
so
be for
smart.
sale? Will
Yeah,
people
I
be able
think
to
so.
buy it? It's
Oh
just going to
yeah,
be
I
more
believe
than
so.
25 quid, though, isn't it? It'll be,
Probably,
yeah. So I will
probably.
buy the book, absolutely.
But
And I
and
wish I'd bought it earlier.
Christy Glass has been, she was one of the first podcasters I ever watched because she was everywhere when I first
Yeah,
started, and she was so positive about it. Like everything, all her podcasts were, have fun with it, enjoy it,
yeah,
meet great people, and that's what she was about. And it's just,
yeah.
to me, it's like really, I think something's missing, with her quirky colors and her quirky outfits, and it was
Yeah,
fun, and
I mean, I
she
was
had a
never a
spot
fan.
that's.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I would never dress that way or, necessarily knit in the color
yeah,
she did, but it worked for her and she made it fun. She made it, you know, she wasn't just, okay, here's my podcast, buy this, 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 and this yarn because somebody
yeah,
sent it to me. It was like, I'm making this pattern and, I'm doing this and I'm interviewing this person. And she was one of the first ones out there interviewing people.
Yeah. And the other thing she did, I mean, I didn't watch all of them, but I watched if there was a guest that I wanted to
Hmm.
watch. So the thing is, for me, I'm quite a, a dour person. I don't know, but I found her a little bit hyper. But the thing now she's not there, I miss her. I
Yeah.
miss when I did watch it. I did it. I must have enjoyed it because I came back.
Well, she
You,
did
you know,
every March she did Manch, which she interviewed men in knitting and
yes,
crochet.
she did.
And
Yeah, yeah.
she was pointing out people, men dyers and men and
I still think she should have interviewed me because I'm from Manchester. So it would have been Manch in Manchester.
that would have been perfect. I mean, she interviewed Nathan. He was on her podcast a couple times, and they
Ah,
met up at
Rhinebeck, wasn't it?
Rhinebeck. Yeah,
Yes, I
Rhinebeck
remember that
in
one.
one of her
Yeah, I saw that
videos,
one.
and just
Yeah,
I don't know. He's such a kind person and such a good person, and I just it really struck me how badly he was hurt by it.
yeah,
The treatment he got, and I just we probably don't agree politically on a lot of things, but he's so kind, and the interactions I've
yeah.
had with him have been generous to a fault. And he, like one of his patterns, one of our friends in chat wanted, but it was only available on Ravelry, and I emailed him, and he made it available to her from his website
Ah,
because
that's
she didn't
cool.
want to buy from Ravelry. So,
Yeah.
just little things like that he's,
I've got
willing to
his
do.
I bought his Union Jack triple knitted hat and I've
Oh,
got the
cool.
yarn to do it. And I tell you what, it's a good pattern. It's so well written,
Oh yeah, his
and
patterns are.
because it's such a difficult concept, this triple knitting thing. If you've never done it, I mean, I've never done it yet. I've only read the pattern, and he tells you exactly where to have the yarn over your fingers, and which people are going to struggle. So if you're a continental knitter, you're going to find it easier than if you're an English knitter. And if you're a
Mhm.
Portuguese knitter, it's going to be even harder, apparently. It doesn't quite work. So I'm going to have to go back to either trying to do the Norwegian knitting like we were talking about before. But the actual Union Jack pattern is just brilliant. I think it's so good how he's done it.
Well, for his backers for his book, there's going to be a video tutorial for every pattern in the book.
Wow.
So that's really cool because I'm a
Yeah,
visual
because
learner. I have to see it to learn it. I can't just read it sometimes on a new concept. So
I
that'll
saw
be
him
good for me.
on Suzanne Bryan, is it? Is it
Hmm. Yeah.
I saw him. So after the whole cancellation, he was on her show, and he must have been talking about triple knitting or double brioche, one or the other. And I think she said at the time that he's going to be putting QR codes, isn't he, on every
Hmm.
page, and that's what
Yeah.
leads you to
Yeah.
the tutorials.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is really cool. I mean, just and thoughtful.
Lisa
But
said, I'd stepped away for a minute, but I was eyeball deep in the Nathan scandal. Just horrible. I communicated with his sister and husband quite a lot, and eventually with him once he recovered some. Yeah, I did speak to his sister. I contacted her because I wanted to buy his yarn. When it all happened, I contacted her directly, and we did have a little bit of a chat, and she actually thanked me because I wrote a really quite a strong message. I put it on Instagram. This is before anyone was following me to do with this sort of stuff, and I think I said something quite nasty to them, and she sort of thanked me for saying it, even though she wouldn't have chosen those words. I think she said.
well, everybody's got their own way of saying things, but I just think how he was treated was
Oh, it's absolutely
abominable.
dreadful. Well,
And the
nobody
fact that
deserves that for not doing.
no,
He hadn't done anything. That was the thing that frustrates me. Is that okay, he was hyper and he was excitable and he was. I don't know. I don't know why they didn't like him in the end. I don't understand that whole poem thing. Didn't seem to be anything to get upset about.
I didn't
Um,
understand why they got offended by it. I mean,
well, I think the actual thing was because they said he was tone policing. He was telling them how they should be reacting, and as a white man, he doesn't have that right to have an opinion.
he was just
Um,
putting his thoughts out there.
yeah,
You
I
don't
know.
have to agree with him. That's the thing. You don't have to
Yeah,
agree with him, and you also don't have to ruin his life either because you don't agree with him.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, he was trying to be thoughtful in a way to make people think before they spoke, before they made
Yeah.
judgments, before they went after people.
Oh, hang on, what's this here? Lisa, I collected screenshots of the nasty posts and comments about him and forwarded to his husband for possible legal action. Sadly, most of the threats were US based and out of the UK jurisdiction. Yeah, that's the issue I've had as well with when I had the stalker, who I've managed to. Well, I think there were three of them in the end, and I've exposed all three of them now, and it's all stopped. So it does pay to pursue them, to try and find out who they are. I know some people said to me at the time that I should just sort of let them do what they're doing and just walk away. But the thing is, I think those three people are going to think twice before they do it to other people now, because
I
I
think it
found out
depends
who they
on the
were.
kind. I think it depends on the way and the reasons that they're stalking. I mean, they
Yeah,
were
yeah,
stalking just to police you on social media. They
yeah.
weren't personally stalking you, following you around your neighborhood. It's
Oh
a
no,
totally
yeah,
different
it
type
was
of stalking.
online.
So
Yeah,
you have to judge it based on, what the threat level was. And the threat level was
yeah,
the minute that you point out who they were and who they were affiliated, you know, everybody knows now. There's no
yeah,
anonymity for them anymore. So, you know,
yeah,
they can go spend that time constructively is what I would say, instead of spending their time on social media going after people. I just don't
yeah.
get that. I just don't understand why people spend all that time on social media attacking people instead of living their lives.
Well, yeah, I mean, I should take that advice myself, because I kind of react to everything, but then part of me, I don't know. I think it must be an ego thing, mustn't it? Everyone's got an ego, and they don't like,
Yeah.
the things people are saying about them or whatever. But the people that go and attack people just because they don't agree with them, that just is beyond me. I don't
Well, that's
understand.
that's the people I'm
Yeah,
talking about. It's just,
yeah,
I mean, you're reacting not just on, see, used to be you just were reacting for you, but now that you're the face of this Blocked magazine, you're reacting on behalf of Blocked and its
that's
readers.
true. Yeah,
So you feel
yeah,
more of an impetus to respond than you might have before when it was
yeah.
just you.
Yeah, because the things they smear about me, by default, everybody who's watching now, you're all smeared as racists, and here's an interesting thing. Somebody, yes, I have written about Katie. So Jordan, this was Katie. Oh, I've forgotten her last name now.
Oh, the one who set
Um,
him up.
yeah, there was a whole thing there, wasn't there, with Almus Khan, who's now married with a different name. I can't remember her last name now. And I did do a lot of work on this, but Almus, the lady that physically attacked him, allegedly, I have to say, she has since laid very low. But what I will tell you is, while I was researching it, I got a very strange Instagram phone call came through. You can do phone calls through Instagram,
Hmm.
and it was from a jeweler's. And I thought, why is a jeweler phoning me? Because I don't wear jewelry, and it's like, why would they do that? It's not like I go searching on the internet for jewelry. And I did a bit of research, and it was her son. So her son was trying to contact me. This is Almus. This is the lady who
Hmm.
was with Katie on the day with
Right.
the top petition story. And I think either one of two, maybe three things had happened. So either he was ringing me to threaten me, or he was ringing me to ask me not to write about her, or three, he was looking at my profile and pressed the phone thing by mistake. So, but the thing is, since then, Almus has laid so low and hasn't stepped a foot out of line. So I feel a little bit like dragging her into that now, after all this time, might be a little bit unfair. So I might tell the Katie story, because she ended up in prison because of fraud, but I might leave out the Alma story for the time being, because I don't know. We'll see if she
Yeah. I
does
mean,
anything new. But I thought it was interesting that I got a phone call. So it's like, as much as I'm researching them, they're researching me.
well, I mean, it's good to know who's out there, but
Yeah.
I'm, I could spend so much more time getting involved in these things, or I could sit and knit. And, for me, it's,
Yeah, I know.
I'm not big enough. I'm not a big enough voice where my voice is going to matter. I just do my thing and support the good people and, wish everyone else well. I don't wish anyone ill. I want everyone to succeed. And that's hard when people in our community want to try to tear down other businesses.
Mm,
Why can't we want everyone to succeed? What's wrong with that?
yeah.
Because it
Well,
makes us all, the more dyers that are successful means there are more designers that are successful. For me,
That's true.
I want dyers to be successful, but I just don't get the whole bitterness. There's so much bitterness.
Yeah,
And
and to me, I don't know whether I'm being naive and I've missed out a whole load of stuff that happened, but it all seems to have started around the whole pussy hat thing. When
well, there
Donald
was the
Trump,
whole bunker thing back in the day,
the bumper
which you
thing.
had
Oh, what was
the
that?
bunker, the bunker.
Oh, yes, but
You had the article about that
wasn't
was
that to do with
Obama.
Donald Trump though?
No, that was back in 2009, 2010. You had the article
Ah,
about it.
yeah, I didn't write it though, so
No, I know.
I
But,
think that's in next issue, isn't it?
that
We can
was
talk. Yeah,
they kicked out people for that way back then. So it's something that's been going on, but I think it was the pussy hat thing and the Donald Trump thing that really made people, pay attention. And I didn't
yeah,
spend a lot of time on Ravelry at the time. I was only go on there and look for patterns. I wasn't designing then.
yeah.
But when
Same
that
as me.
whole thing
Yeah,
came out and it said, you know what, we're going to tell people we don't, in a whole group of people that we don't know personally, we don't want you here. That's kind of a wake up call to a lot of people who probably wouldn't cared and probably, made them think and made a lot of people think who they want to associate with. And a lot of us didn't want to associate with people who didn't want us.
yeah. I missed all of that because I was knitting kind of a lone knitter at the time. I didn't know anybody else at all that
Hmm.
knitted. So I just went on Ravelry for the patterns and that was it. And I did start designing patterns and putting them up there. There were toy patterns at the beginning. But I never got involved in any of the forums because I just never was into forums back then, really. Yeah, so that all completely passed me by.
Well, I was
Um,
going to start going on social media then because I had no social media presence. And then the Ravelry thing happened, and I'm like, you know what? Nope. No, I'm going to stay away from it. And then all the podcasters that I watched, a lot of them were pro Ravelry, and this is a good thing. We don't want white supremacist followers. It's like, okay, but you don't know me. And people I'd been doing business with, like a bag designer, they designed a lot of other things, but I bought project bags from her in England, made this
oh,
whole
yeah.
statement about they didn't want Trump supporters. And I just emailed her and said, I'm sorry to hear this. I think that you and I, we have a lot of things in common. We've always had great interactions, but if you don't want my business, that's your choice. But you don't know everything that's going on in every person's head in another country and their political things. So, I wish you complete well, but I'm just not going to give you any more
Yeah.
of my money when
Well,
you're
we
telling me you
had
don't want
that.
it.
It started here with the Brexit thing, where people. I mean, my family. I don't talk about this much, but my family is literally sliced down the middle, and we do not speak anymore. But it's not me and my mum were Brexit voters. Everybody else in the family were not, and it's not we won't speak to them. They
So they
won't
won't speak
speak
to you.
to us, and it's a bit the same thing. It's like we had what was her name, Countess Blaze. She was in my city. I've been to her shop. I actually went in a few times, and she made a statement, about Brexit and how she didn't want them as customers, so I wouldn't go again. To stop people being customers, I think is ridiculous because you shouldn't really know or care what your customers' beliefs are anyway.
Well,
Really,
and and not just that. I mean, people they're basing their relationship with you on one aspect and forgetting the whole lifetime of relationships that you've had with your relatives. That part, the rest of those don't matter. Just as one
yeah,
aspect. And I don't get that
yeah,
with people. It's like, okay, we might not agree politically, but we have a lot in common.
yeah,
Like parents of my kids' friends, we were politically indifferent, but we didn't talk about politics.
yeah.
When the kids were playing at the park, we just chatted. We didn't bring in the
Well,
differences.
that year, 2016. So on your side of the pond and on our side, because you had the whole Trump thing happening over there, we had Brexit just before that. Because I think, yeah, Brexit happened first, and
Hmm.
then Donald Trump was elected. It's I don't know how families in America are dealing with now, but here we still have not recovered from that split. Everybody is so
Hmm.
divided. Everyone, you're either a Brexiteer or you're not. And it's so there's no communicating at all anymore.
There's a lot of that with the anti-Trump people and leftist people who don't even want to. It's a joke. Oh, don't talk to your, Republican relatives at the holidays. You know,
Yeah, I saw a few videos of how to deal with them. And it's like what? Why can't you
Just
just
don't,
eat a meal and just not talk about politics, for one day,
because people, I don't, well, it's like Meghan Markle and her husband claiming that Brexit was racist.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons they left, because Brexit was racist. And I'm like, I don't remember that, but
Well,
okay.
the thing that I find funny is that the whole point of Brexit was to leave the economic union. So, which gave freedom of movement to Europeans that are all white, mostly white. So the people that have been stopped from being able to move freely are 90% white. So if
Right.
you're being racist, we're being racist against other white people,
Oh,
racist against
don't ruin it
French
with
people.
facts, Neil. Don't put the facts in. Come on. You have
And
the
more
narrative.
and more, we're not the people in Africa, the people in the Middle East, they aren't affected by Brexit and they can still come, they're still coming over. So yeah, there was absolutely no racist element to Brexit at all, and it's
You,
infuriating. Same with Trump, though. There was no racist element in voting for Trump, was there?
not
At
by the
least to my
people,
knowledge.
not for most people. I mean, there's always going to be wackos on both sides who support a candidate, and you can't, base everybody on those wackos. I mean, but most people who supported Trump that I know, it was economics, because,
Yeah.
the
And haven't
economy.
they been
And
proven to be right now? Wow.
yeah, exactly. $4 or more gas. And
Yeah, because your country, America, your gas was always quite inexpensive compared to anywhere else. Like in the UK, we call it petrol, but here it's always been high.
well, we provide our own,
Yeah.
it comes, so
Well,
we
we do.
sell it to other places.
Yeah, ours comes from the North Sea, but where I think we sell it. I think we sell ours and then buy it from somewhere else. I think that seems to be
I
how
think you
our
sell
economy
yours,
works.
but I think you sell yours to be processed somewhere, and then you buy already processed back, maybe. I don't know.
Ah,
I don't know how it works. I know
right.
we have oil fields and gas fields, and but it just, so people making these decisions were making decisions on things, on reasons that other people didn't like, okay, but you can disagree on something, but you can still be friends, and you can't anymore in a lot of ways. A lot of people won't. Like,
Yeah,
a lot of college students won't dorm with someone who's a Republican if they're a Democrat. It's like,
crazy, isn't it?
my daughter lived in a dorm for a year and a half, and none of them talked politics. They never brought up politics, because why? They're college students. They're,
Yeah, you don't know what your politics are at that age, do you? Really,
well,
it kind of gets formed during those years.
well, they were busy being college students, learning, going out, meeting people, doing things. They didn't have time for politics. But it just, luckily most of my husband's family voted the same way, so we don't have too much trouble. We have a couple people who didn't, but they haven't cut us off. They just, you know, like to spout what they say, and it's just, you're still family. I don't get the whole cut off your family because you don't like a political
Yeah,
decision.
it's yeah, it was pretty bad what happened with us because it was my mum that was involved in it. They had a big row on a Christmas Day of all days, so it would have been 2016, that Christmas it would have been. And or was it the Christmas before? No, it would have been the 2016 Christmas. And I mean, they were just so horrible to my mum for having her own opinion. You know what I mean? It was just unbelievable what they were like. And this is my family. You know, it's kind of like, wow, where did this come from? You know,
Ha-
because you feel like you know someone for all your life,
Well,
but
you
then you
think,
don't
have they
know them.
always, well, you think, have people always thought this badly of me?
Yeah, it's so
Like,
strange, so
it's
strange.
like a lot of interactions I had with dyers and people in the yarn world. It's like, no, they don't want my business. Fine. I don't
Mm,
publicly boycott them, because if I choose personally not to do business with someone, then I choose that's a personal decision.
yeah,
The only time
yeah,
I'm public about it is if they're offering a dangerous product or they're lying about it. Then I'll
yeah.
say something, because I feel if I'm going to boycott somebody, I'm not trying to stop their
Excuse me.
business. I'm not trying to end someone's business. I'm just saying I don't want to buy from them. I'm not going to tell other
Yeah.
people not to buy from them unless their product is dangerous or they're lying.
Well,
Like, these
that's why
group.
the list that went round was so bad. Do you remember? I mean, I've got a copy of that now.
Mhm.
Somebody sent me the original. Let's say the original copy. It was online, but it was a list of how people viewed the Ravelry decision and whether they supported Trump or not, and the sort of the people they agreed with were on that list and the people that weren't. So the idea was that you would know who you must not support financially, which is really bad.
Yeah, all those people are the kind of people who would turn their neighbors into the Germans.
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely.
That's how I look at it. All these
Yeah.
people who do this kind of stuff, it's like, you're the kind of person who would have turned in your Jewish neighbors.
Yeah. It's sad. It's sad. I think the same with the vaccine thing as well, because I wrote about that
Hmm.
in issue 6, I think it was, or was it 5? I'm losing track now, but that felt like that to me as well. The people that wanted people unvaccinated to be put into camps and to be, locked in their homes and not left out, and people were ringing up the police on the here they were anyway. When we weren't allowed out, if you went in your garden, there were people ringing up the police to grass on their neighbours. It's like, what? They're just going in their own garden. Leave them
Yeah,
be.
it really changed society. And there were a lot of the podcasters who were all in and called out people. And there were a lot of ones I stopped watching because, you have your opinion, I have my opinion. And, if you,
Yeah.
if you,
Just checking. We did say Nazis, didn't we, or did we say Germans? If we said Germans, we did mean Nazis. I can't remember which way around we said it. Do you remember? We said Nazis, didn't we? I think.
I might have said Germans, but, not every German was a member of the Nazi
Yeah.
Party.
Yeah.
But, they did what they felt was right at the time. And that's the thing. A lot of people think that they're doing what's right at the time, and history tells you differently.
Yeah. Oh, Cezanne's got a good point here. They did a good job of convincing people that the others were evil
Hmm.
and it was the responsible thing to report them. Yeah. And that's happened
Yeah.
in so many different incarnations, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I worked for a Russian guy years ago whose grandfather had disappeared
Oh, right.
during Stalin's era and was never seen again.
Wow.
They said the police came and took him, and he was never seen again because somebody said something about him.
Someone denounced him for something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's just somehow
Oh,
societies are. The Khmer Rouge was that way. Children were reporting their parents and getting
yeah.
their parents taken away.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, that happened in Nazi Germany as well. The
Hmm.
Nazi youth were trained to do that. And it's kind of what I wonder is what will happen here. Well, when I say here, I mean in the Western world, because of the way they are teaching our children now, and they're sort of teaching children to not respect their parents and to
Hmm.
respect the government more than their own people.
Yep.
Oh, this is interesting. It is New Zealand. Yes, it is. New Zealand Nita, she was working for the New Zealand Ministry of Education and they mandated the vaccine and she
Yeah.
had to get it or quit. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot of that. A lot of, they finally out banned it for the military now, but
Yeah.
they're pushing to get all the military people their jobs back and back
Yeah.
pay. The ones who were fired, lost their jobs because they wouldn't take the vaccine. And a lot of firefighters and police officers and teachers in different places wouldn't take it. And, I think people who didn't take it because they didn't trust it weren't just saying, I don't trust it because I don't trust it. There were reasons they didn't trust it. And we're coming to find out now all
Yeah.
those reasons are true, but they were hidden because places like Twitter and other places were hiding all this data.
Yeah.
And every time I see, I read the news, there's another under 20-year-old dying of a heart attack somewhere.
Well,
Perfectly healthy person dying of a heart attack. And the only
yeah.
thing in common they have is they are all vaccinated.
Yeah. The official stats for this country, the government stats, if you like, they show exactly that. There's been a massive increase based on previous years in deaths of young people,
Hmm.
way beyond anything to do with COVID, and there's no other explanation. But they're not
Yeah. And
telling
it's,
people. Whereas
well, it's
during
starting
the
to come out.
during the pandemic, it seemed to be every COVID death was reported. It's like they
Yeah.
counted every single one. Um,
Well, yeah, because that kept the
crazy, isn't
narrative
it?
going,
Yeah,
because they had to keep the narrative going to keep control of people. And you can take reasonable precautions without snitching on your neighbors and, living your life and, not endangering people. You can still do that without turning into massive government agents who, are
yeah,
taking people
yeah,
from their homes and forcing businesses closed. that are trying to stay open so their employees have have money,
Yeah.
can pay their bills, can support their families. They forget that, in their zeal to, do the right thing, how many people are now having sicknesses that didn't come to light because they weren't getting tested and they weren't getting scans done, and now all these cancers are coming out because people didn't go to the doctor for 3 years because they
Yeah.
couldn't,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and how many people,
Yeah.
suicides were up because people were losing their businesses. Oh yeah, the sudden
Yeah.
adult death syndrome. I think so too. That's
Yeah.
the new thing.
Yeah, it's
It's
crazy, isn't it?
crazy.
Oh, his and in New Zealand again, it's very hard to be very
Oh, I know.
anti-COVID vaccine in New Zealand. Yeah, because those what they call the Voices for Freedom
You know,
ladies, they're
hmm
amazing. I follow them
they
and
are.
watch what they put. They're very brave, and
Yeah.
I don't know whether anyone saw. I only saw clips because it wasn't released here. But the Web of Chaos, I think it was called, the documentary, where they basically said that these women were Nazis. That's how they described them. They also said in this documentary that you know if you're a traditional person, as in a traditional wife, traditional husband, then you are problematic. If you're a knitter, you're problematic, and if you're a white girl with blonde hair in a braid, that's problematic as well. It's great. Oh, yes, I do watch Dr. Campbell. He's absolutely brilliant. And I've only found him recently in the last sort of month, and I've been watching a lot of what he says. Yeah, he knows what he's talking about. And he does it in a very what I like about him is that that if it's something that goes against what I want to believe, he will still say it. You know what I mean? If it turns out that the vaccine was good, he would say that. But obviously it doesn't happen like that. But you can tell that he would because he's very data
Yeah.
driven. Yeah.
Well, it's easier
So
to go after people as groups than it is after individuals. So if you can lump
yeah,
everyone into problematic groups, you can attack them and harass them and make them lose their businesses, and your conscience is free because that's a bad group. It's not you personally going after one individual
yeah,
who may or may not be problematic. It's a lot easier on the conscience to say that they're going after whole groups of people.
yeah. Something else. I don't know whether this. I should say this is not valid medical advice. So take this as just me. But all I did was I took vitamin D, a high dose, which I still take, and I've started taking vitamin K2 and a little bit of zinc. And since all of this started, I haven't had a cold or the flu or anything, and I'm not vaxxed, and I've been around people. I don't know whether that does help, but I know in a recent video, Dr. John Campbell actually talked about these vitamins quite a lot.
Hmm.
And the people that seem to have died from COVID were all part from groups where vitamin D is really low. So, for example, if you're obese, which I am, my vitamin D would have been low, which meant that I possibly would have been more at risk of dying from COVID. Black people are more at risk from dying of COVID, and that's because their skin doesn't absorb vitamin D in the northern or away from equatorial areas. So they're more prone to dying of COVID. Old people, because they lose the ability to absorb vitamin D as well. And people with diabetes, and they also don't absorb vitamin D very well. And they're the people that were mostly dying. And it's just really interesting.
Hmm.
Um, what's Cezanne's put? They locked everyone inside so they couldn't get vitamin D.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, luckily where I live, getting that is not a problem because you go outside for half an hour every day and you probably
Oh,
have enough.
yeah, where you are, that's okay, isn't it? Yeah, but
Yeah, where I am, yeah.
yeah,
When other
I know
places,
here.
no.
I'll tell you what was interesting is that in the northern parts of Scandinavia, they had quite a low COVID death rate at one point. Whether it continued, I don't know. But what was interesting there is it's very well known that because they're in the northern hemisphere, so far north, that they do not get vitamin D from the sun at all.
So they
Like
take it.
now, yeah, so they already were taking vitamin D, so they had a
Hmm.
lower rate. Whereas now, I've been trying to explain to people, you say, "Oh, it's just go out for longer." It's like, no, in this weather that we have in the UK now, you will not get any vitamin D from because there's no
Right,
sun.
because there's no sun.
Yeah, in the
Yeah, we
summer,
have few
yeah.
days without sun. I think Amy has an app that tracks your vitamin D,
Oh,
where
does
it'll tell
she?
you, yeah. I don't know what it's
Ah,
called, but she's talked about it before. it's an app that tracks how much vitamin D you've had and how much you need based on how much you've been out in the sun and all. So,
Ah,
it might be something to look into the Play stores and stuff
yeah,
because um, anything you can get natural, the better. You know,
yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's very interesting. All these people who said that people who were unvaxxed should be in camps and should not be a travel are all now coming out
yeah.
saying, well, we were being hasty and maybe we shouldn't have said these things. And now we realize that the vaccines are not exactly what they said they were. And it's like,
Yeah.
really? Now you're coming
Justin
out saying that?
Trudeau. Here we go. Yeah, somebody. I knew somebody had mentioned him. Justin Trudeau said some really awful things about people that were unvaxxed. Really awful things, and
Yes, well,
now
he's an
he's
awful person.
denying
So,
it. He's saying he didn't say it, and it's like, hang on a
yeah,
minute. There are videos showing you saying these things.
Elizabeth Warren's been saying that for years. Every time she says something crazy and she says she never said it,
Oh,
and they're like, but it's on video.
is this the one Trump called Pocahontas?
Yes, the one who claimed to be Native American, and there's been no, her DNA says otherwise. Um, from family stories, she was Native American, but yeah, she said lots of things and then said she didn't say them, and it's like, well, it's on video.
Yeah.
It's like it kills
But
me, like all these people who say, "Oh, I never said," politicians, "I never said that," or "I never did that," but it's on video. You
yeah,
know, in public, you said it on video with more than one. So yes, you did say it all the
just say
time.
goodbye to Cezanne. Thank you for coming,
Bye,
Cezanne.
Cezanne.
Yeah,
I
and
hope
good luck
everything
for
goes well for you.
yeah, good luck for tomorrow. It is tomorrow, isn't it? Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's tomorrow in Australia.
Oh yeah, they're in the future, aren't they? Yeah. Oh,
That's right.
Trudeau is a dictator with dimples. Do you know? It's so funny. I've actually heard Canadians say that they voted for him because he's attractive, and you just think, really, that's why you would vote for someone because you thought
Aren't
they
there
were
rumors that
attractive?
aren't there rumors that he's Castro's son? Didn't his
Yeah.
mom have a thing with Castro?
Well, here are the facts. His mum definitely knew Castro, definitely visited him. There are photographs of his mum with him. His dad, um, his official dad, is rumored to have actually been gay, and he had rent boys allegedly, because obviously I don't know for certain. And yeah, she's supposed to have had an affair with Fidel Castro, and he looks like him at every stage of his life. If you compare the
Hmm.
photos, they look identical. But they'd never
Well,
admit it.
well, no. But
Yeah.
people vote for who they vote for, and then the rest of the country has to suffer. I've never voted for someone based on their attractiveness.
Yeah,
That's never
I
been a
don't understand.
criteria.
Yeah, I don't understand why somebody would. Um, Yeah, he
I
looks
don't
more
either.
like Castro than his dad. Yeah, absolutely. Because his dad, there's no comparing the two, is there? His dad is everything about his dad is a different shape. Different shaped face, different shaped body. I've forgotten what his dad was called now. What is it? Pierre Trudeau. Was that his name?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he allegedly had an affair with Barbara Streisand in the 70s, but I don't know how true that was. I'm full of all
I don't
these
know.
bits of gossip.
The 70s were a happening time for sure. A lot of
Yeah.
shenanigans went on in the 70s between
Oh,
people.
Pierre was 5'8". Castro and Justin are both over 6 foot tall. Yeah, it's probably not enough in itself because it depends how tall his mother was, I suppose, doesn't it? That the two heights depend. But
Yeah, but he
yeah, but
looks
I
a
do
lot like
think,
Castro.
ah,
I've
yeah,
always thought that. I
absolutely,
mean, that's just one of those things you just, okay, it's totally believable. And,
yeah,
well, don't they say that Prince Harry is not Prince Charles's son?
yeah. I believe that he's not. Personally, I believe that he's not. He looks. It could just be a coincidence, but he looks exactly like. Oh, I've forgotten his name. But Diana had an affair with him, but officially she had an affair with him after Harry was born. But who knows? But he does look exactly
I don't know.
like him.
But sometimes, in some instances, he looks like his grandfather, though. So I always
Yeah,
wondered.
fair. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, because because Prince Philip, when he was young, was a very good-looking guy, wasn't he? Ah, here we go.
Yeah,
James Hewitt. That's it. That was the name of the
yeah,
guy
that one.
Diana was with, and he's ginger-haired as well. Although the Spencer family have ginger hair in the
Well,
Spencer family, so
her brother has red hair, so
yeah.
not that bright,
Well,
but
well, if you want to see a weird, I don't know whether you guys will know who he is, but he's called Zach Goldstein, and he was a member of, was he a member of parliament? Well, he stood to be a member of parliament, and he was very rich, and he was quite prominent in London for a long time. And he is like the male version of Princess Diana. They look like they are brother and sister. And it turns out that Diana's mother had an affair with his father. So there's a lot of speculation that that they were all sleeping around with everybody, and the genetics of all these important people are just so mixed up that
Well,
nobody knows who's the father.
the aristocracy and elites have always had different rules about that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Well, there's always been rumours that Andrew and Edward, Prince Andrew and Prince Edward, aren't Philip's sons, and that the Queen was having an affair, and there's lots of similar stories there as well. But who knows? How have we got onto this? This is kind of weird, isn't it?
She was surrounded by way too many people all the time to be stepping out with someone else.
But I don't think anybody would say, if they worked for the royal family, I don't think they would dare to
no, but I don't think she would. I don't think she would have chanced it.
Right.
I don't know. I thought she was always in love with him. Oh, well, we know we know Chelsea is not Bill's daughter.
Oh, really? I've not heard this before.
Oh, yeah. Google Web Hubble and a picture Web Hubble and a picture Chelsea Clinton and make up your own mind. But she knows exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, because she's very distinctive looking, isn't she, Chelsea?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who is Webb Hubble. A politician? Or
he was a family friend attorney who worked with him. And Chelsea looks just like him.
Well, there's also the rumors about the Obama's daughters looking like I don't know who they are, but there's another couple that are always shown near the Obamas, sort of walking behind, and that they're actually their children, but I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. There's too much scandal. Too much scandal with the elites, I swear. Those who think there are betters, but they're just as prone to make mistakes, and children usually end up paying. But I don't know. I feel sorry for Prince Charles. I think he's in a bad spot with his kid and his daughter-in-law, who are narcissists and never
did you watch the narcissist that Kerry did the video with? Oh, that was so interesting.
Oh, the one Kerry did. H.E. Tudor. Yeah, I did watch him.
And then I watched some of his videos about Meghan Markle.
I've seen a couple of his videos.
Yeah.
She set him up. She was looking for a rich husband. She researched him. She set him up.
Yeah.
She made herself appear to him like his mother.
Yes.
She dressed like his mother. She had the pedigree of the charity. Like, she set herself up.
She even wore the same perfume, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a big thing, right?
There's tons of photos of her dressed similarly to his mother.
Yeah.
And I think she knew he, realized that he had never gotten over that. And that was the way to get him, was the mother thing. And, I don't think they'll stay together forever. I think she'll get what she wants, or he'll stop bringing money to her and she'll find someone else. And I think it'll be sooner rather than later, because she's getting older.
Well, I think she's realized now that he has no power, and he never did, because I think she thought he would have some kind of power being a prince. So I wonder whether she's going to go for a politician next, either a presidential candidate. I know she's made noises about running for president herself.
She won't, because nobody likes her. And she'd have to give up her title to run anyway. There's no way
would she?
Yeah, she can't. You can't have a title from another country and run for political office here.
I'm surprised she's been able to keep any of the titles, to be honest.
Well, I read a thing where Charles won't take the titles away.
Right.
Because then she'll be Princess Henry will be her title. Because Prince Harry, and that's his title is Prince Henry, because they call him Harry. And so she would be referred to as Princess Henry. And nobody wants her
You're right.
being princess. So Duchess is better. Though aren't the people in Sussex fighting to have them have the titles removed?
Because they're called the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, aren't they, at the moment? That's right. Yeah.
And they
it's and I don't think they're very happy, because I think they created a brand called Sussex Royal, I think, which is their, I don't know what,
which the Queen stopped.
Name.
No, the Queen wouldn't let him use it when they left.
Well, they did a nasty thing by calling the child Lilibet,
Yeah,
because
that
the
was,
Queen wanted that name to die with Prince Philip because that was
yeah,
her nickname, and she
I
didn't
know,
want it
but
to ever be used.
well,
Um,
they're the kind of, and it's funny, everything I've heard about their video, they never admit to making any mistakes themselves. They never said, "Hey, I might have come on strong here, or I was from a different country, I didn't understand. Maybe I could have done this better, or maybe everything is everyone else's fault but theirs." Like,
yeah, that's a
no,
dead
they
giveaway,
no
isn't it?
blame. Yeah, that's total narcissism. And I think
Yeah,
he needed a mommy figure, and he needed someone. He couldn't feel like he didn't protect his mother, and she made him see her as someone who needs to be protected the same way his mother was, and he couldn't. She's in danger from all these paparazzi and these newsmen and whatever, and he feels like he can relive not being able to save his mother.
yeah, this is true, isn't it? Narcissists don't make mistakes. Yeah,
No, never make a
yeah.
mistake. And he's feeding off this fighting with his family. I think he's always been resentful. I just don't know why she thought she could go in there and take charge.
Yeah. Just to answer Dale here, yes, I believe he can because all titles belong to the monarch.
But I thought
Um,
Parliament has to approve it.
I don't think they would go against it. The monarch can actually go against Parliament's decisions as well, but they just rarely do. They do have they do have more power than they ever used. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
they choose never to use their power, but they can do things. So the king, the it wouldn't just be the monarch either. There'd be a whole group of people that would make the decision as to whether his title could be removed. But theoretically, he does have the power to do that. I don't know whether he ever would really. I think Harry would have to do something else pretty bad to be
Well, we'll find
completely
out in
put
10
off.
days when his book comes out.
Oh God, that's true. Yeah.
But I mean,
Are you going to read it? I'm not going to
no.
read it. No,
If England is so horrible and so racist, why would they want to keep the titles?
that's true. Yeah,
If
yeah,
why did they want a half in, half out? They claim it was so horrible to be part of it,
yeah,
but so they wanted half in and half out. Well, why would you want to stay at all if it was so
yeah.
horrible?
Exactly. Yeah,
Their own story
yeah,
makes no sense. That's what
yeah.
cracks me up. And every time they tell it, it's different. How
Well,
they
everything
met.
she has said, especially, has been pretty much a lie. Almost everything she says has been a
Well,
lie.
she makes up, she
Um,
changes it every time. And it's
yeah,
always someone, she tried so hard and everyone was against her. And it's like, give me a friggin', she's not that good an actress.
yeah. Well, on the day of the wedding, everybody was happy for them.
Yeah.
There was nobody that wasn't, or certainly nobody being vocal about it. So, she was welcomed. Prince Charles walked her down the bloody aisle, which is completely
Well,
unheard of.
weren't they dancing in the streets in South Africa
Yeah,
like they did
yeah,
when
yeah.
Mandela was released?
Oh, well,
Same
she said
thing.
that, didn't she? Did they? I don't know whether they did. I know we had street parties and things like you do for
Any occasion like
yeah. I
that.
mean, we didn't do it but I do know there were some, especially in London. But yeah, people were quite pleased about her. They didn't know who she was, I suppose. So that's
But
why,
I think I think people in your country was happy that he found somebody he could
Mm.
be with. They wanted him to be able to be happy and settle down.
Well, Harry was so popular before she came along. I think
Hmm.
even people who aren't royalists liked Harry because he fought for the country. He did so many years in Afghanistan or wherever it was. He was very down to earth. Got himself into a lot of trouble for saying things he shouldn't say, and people kind of liked that.
Or
There was the
or
time he
wearing
got caught
Nazi
naked. Oh yeah,
or wearing Nazi uniforms in Vegas. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, who
yeah.
is the racist there, Harry? I'm just saying.
Yeah, should she have gone with him if he was so racist? Yeah, yeah, because when he got caught naked, canoodling with some woman over a pool table, I think it was, all of the soldiers had loads of photographs taken naked in support of him, because they made
Yeah, I
such a
mean,
big deal of it. He was so popular. Whereas now, I don't think people would, help him if he was on
well,
fire.
I just see it as unfortunate. He's a 40-year-old man who acts like a 3-year-old. I know
Yes.
toddlers who are more mature than him and whining and crying that his father cut him off. Okay, you're almost 40 something years old. You inherited millions of dollars. I don't I don't
Yeah.
understand the problem here.
Yeah, I
Your
think
mother.
my dad stopped paying for me when I turned 16. I had to have a job at 16 and pay rent.
Well, yeah, I mean, and then to claim that, she saved him with mental health, yet he credited his previous girlfriend to being the one to getting him mental health help.
Oh, Cressida.
So
Yeah.
which yeah, and then but that never happened evidently in his new retelling. In his new
Ah,
retelling, it was all doing, you know. And
down
for
to
somebody who
Saint
said,
Megan.
okay, I don't understand how someone helped set up a mental health charity, was getting therapy on his own, and yet his wife was supposedly needed mental help and he couldn't get her any.
Yeah, and this is the other thing, isn't it? She said nobody helped to be a royal. Well, why didn't your husband help you? You know, he knows it better than anybody. You know, he's grown up in it.
Supposedly they
Yeah.
did. They had a whole dossier for her with a list of who to talk to, and she talked to two people one time, and that was it because she knew better.
Ah, yeah.
The queen offered her people to help her, and she turned her down and said, "No, no, I'm good."
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think you can't go to another country and take over their royal family and think everyone's going
Yeah.
to drop a hat and I think she thought it was celebrity. I think she thought she could go to these big fancy gala occasions and not do the stuff like your Princess Anne does, who,
Well,
works her butt off.
there's rumors, and I have to say allegedly, because they can afford to sue me, that she was what's called a yotter.
A yacht
And
girl, yeah.
so is that an American term? Because it's something I wasn't
Hmm.
aware of. Yeah, and that's how she met Prince Andrew, and that it was Prince Andrew that had been with her first, and it was through Prince Andrew that's how Harry met her. So whether it's true, no idea.
I don't know. I read the Tom Bauer book because I got it for free. So I read it, and
Yeah.
if what he says is true, and they haven't sued him, they've not sued
Uh,
him or called out any allegation that he said. She treated people badly,
yeah.
and she was on the make the whole time. Her charity stuff was fake stuff for her to be seen well and for her to make connections. And she went to England to find a rich British man with a title because
Wow.
a reporter interviewed her, and she basically told the reporter that's what she was looking for. She was looking for a rich British man with a title.
Well, this wouldn't surprise me one bit at all if it was through Epstein. No idea, but it probably, I'd look. Isn't this interesting as well? We're really going off of the topics here now, but all of the people from January the 6th that are still in prison being mistreated, and all of the people that were customers, if you like, of Epstein going to those islands doing God knows what, have never ever been
No.
exposed.
Maxwell was convicted for sexual trafficking to nobody
Yeah,
because they've
yeah.
never said anybody
Who?
who.
Yeah, who were the customers? You have to
Yeah, I
traffic them
mean,
to someone, don't you?
yeah, but that's
Yeah,
not come out, and people are fighting hard to keep that from coming out. So that tells you there's a lot of names that people don't want to get out there. And
yeah. Oh, I think if it ever does come out, everything will change because I think it'll be
hey,
every
it's
world leader. I think they're all involved.
well, except Trump, because when the police came to him and asked him, he had heard rumors, and he's the only one who would go on the
Yeah.
record
Well, he
and
banned
talk about it.
Epstein from
You had that from
Mar-a-Lago,
his club.
didn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he did. So he's the
yeah.
one that wasn't.
But don't they love to show those pictures where he and his wife were with Epstein, and the one time he flew on the Lola Express or what it was called when it wasn't even going to his island, they still talk about
But
that.
the prosecutor who was investigating him said that Trump was the only one who would go on the record
Yeah,
against him.
yeah. Probably because he
Because
was the only one that wasn't afraid of what might
when he
happen.
found out what he was doing, that's when he banned him from his club. And I guess he knew there was an investigation going on because people know when those things. So, but yeah, he turned was willing to talk about it where no one else would. So,
Yeah.
but they
Well,
love to show those pictures.
yeah. Listen, on that note, I think we should end because
Yep.
it's 10:30 nearly here, and
Oh,
I'm
jeez.
and I need to sleep at some point.
I
So,
understand.
Liz, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on.
Oh,
Of
thank you. Thank you
having
for having me
having you
back.
on. I can't even speak properly now. So thank you, and you will
Thank
be
you.
back again, I hope.
I hope so.
And I didn't manage to do this last time, so Liz Clothier of Liz Clothier Designs, you have been blocked.